This is West Blaze Music, the geocentric eccentric on Flat Earth Radio, live, FERlive.com.
Linked up here with West Blaze, on to the next phase.
West Blaze, keep doing what you do.
West, keep up your good game.
Shout out to my boy West Blaze, he's spitting that fire.
West, keep doing what you do.
Thank West Blaze for the track of Remember.
Hey, West, keep it going, man. You're doing
good.
Keep it down. The music look. You're doing great. Y'all funny. Check West Blaze. Yeah, here. Keep it up, West Blaze. Music, West. Keep doing what you do. You out here doing big things. West Blaze, my big brother. You're doing what you love. Music club, you already know what it is. Shout out to Blaze. West Blaze, keep doing what you do. West Blaze, you make some good music. West Blaze, following your dreams. Dream big. Dream big. Love you, bunches.
West Blaze Music.
Well, what's happening, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Flat Earth Radio Live, and you are live for the ride with West Blaze on the Geocentric Eccentric. And this is episode number 2 of the show, my follow-up to the premiere that aired on January 1st. All glory to the Most High, man. The development, recording, and success of that debut was one of the most rewarding and encouraging experiences I've had the pleasure to be a part of in a long time. And just to listen to it all come together, I'm overwhelmed with joy to know my message might have reached someone in good favor. During that first broadcast on FERlive.com, I was sent a message from one of the show managers saying, "We are currently experiencing our largest audience ever." And at that point, 45 minutes into the first half, when I read that text, I legitimately dropped to my knees in tears of gratitude for that chance to share what I feel like I was made to share with whoever will listen. You know, the message of the good news. And it's a prayer of mine to have a growing opportunity to continue doing so. Today, I'm going to mix up the format and bring on my first guest. His name is Nate Wolf, and he is Fired for Truth on YouTube. You can even find him on Facebook as Nate Wolf Fired for Truth. And he has a very interesting story with a testimony that I am excited for him to be able to share with you guys, that includes a troubling set of circumstances that involved him losing his work opportunity just for pursuing information about biblical cosmology without even sharing it with his congregation. So, Nate, what's happening, man?
Hey.
What's going on, brother Nate?
How you doing, man?
I'm pretty well. How about yourself this evening?
I'm doing good, man. I had homemade pizza tonight, so.
Did you? That's funny. I had some pizza earlier, too.
Yeah, usually at our house, Fridays are almost 100% pizza night, so.
Very good, very good.
Especially since my wife has a job now and I don't, so, you know, I figure after working all week, she should be able to come home and not have to cook or anything.
I can dig it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was happy to hear you, to have you hit me up to say you'd like to chat.
Yeah.
I know you're coming here into town to Louisville just tomorrow or day after tomorrow, right?
Yeah, Sunday. Check this out, man. Flat Earther that I met with the last time I dropped my son off in Louisville, right after Thanksgiving. He has a friend that also goes to the same college with him, but she lives in Louisville, so he offered to give him a ride the rest of the way down to Arkansas, which was nice because that's like another 7 hours. So save me, I only have to go down about 4.5, 5 hours, drop him off, and then I come back home. So this friend, we weren't friends at the time. We were Facebook friends, but we really didn't know each other well. And I said, hey, you know, I posted, and he was the only one that could make it. So we had lunch and hit it off real well.
Yeah.
And he had been doing some real serious thinking and prayer and had some experiences this last week, and he decided that he wants to be baptized. So when I messaged him the other day, I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to be back in the Louisville area, same time, same place. I said, if you want to meet up for lunch on Sunday, you know, let me know. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm happy to do lunch. Plus, he says, I would like for you to baptize me. So I was like, what? You know, I was blown away. So
No way.
Check this out. Yeah, check this out. So that's cool enough, right? But
yeah.
How's this for the providence of God, right? So the place where I dropped my son off to meet this gal, and the same place I'm going to drop him off Sunday, is the parking lot of a church building that has a baptistry. And the friend that's giving my son a ride happens to be the youth minister at this church. So I didn't have to look very far. The same exact parking lot I was going to anyway has a baptistry, have a connection there. They already said, yeah, come on over. You can use our heated baptistry. So
it's amazing how it works, isn't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, you couldn't have just, you couldn't have made that stuff up. That was perfect planning of God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, how it all works together, right? What's the verse in Romans where it says, for the good of all things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Romans 8:28, I think.
Yeah, I believe that's
all
it.
Things work together for good.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
That's all according to his purpose. So.
Amen. That's another example of that. Very good.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I've been a follower of some of the stuff that I've seen you in, with Robbie, from Celebrate Truth and the interview you guys did. I was just kind of touching up on that, trying to do some of my homework on you and your story. What I can say about wanting to have you as a part of a segment on my show, brother, I just started this, so I'm not super comfortable with what I have to do to conduct an interview. Honestly, I've seen more of your interviews than I've even participated in myself.
Well, I've been at this for only 3.5 months, Wes, so don't sweat it, man.
Okay,
it's been a baptism by fire, but other than that, I'm really pretty new at this myself. So if I can help a new channel, and maybe help with some growth too, man, I'm excited. I mean, that's what everybody's done for me. I was just a guy and had a weird, crazy, frustrating circumstance, and God used it for good. But that was God's choice,
Yeah.
not my choice.
Absolutely.
So I'm just feeling thankful that He decided to use me,
Yes, very much so. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, briefly. I don't have maybe as much time as some of these other guys have had on their shows that you've been on, but I know you've gotten your practice in to be able to kind of briefly spell it out. But what I do want to say is, yes, definitely seeing all the buzz that you've gotten surrounding just your recent story. And it, like you say, it has happened so very recently. But strange, and I know you said crazy and weird what you went through, but it's kind of crazy and weird what we're all going through, seeing how many people are being compelled to create new channels and to spread the message and find their platforms. And that's what I'm being called to do, undeniably, and all of the pieces, just like we were saying earlier, for the will of God, things fall together naturally like they do. And I see this opportunity, and I know that your pulpit was taken from you, and so it meant a lot to me when somebody recently gave me one. I wanted to sacrifice a big chunk of an episode to give mine to you for a little while, brother.
Sweet. I appreciate it, man.
My
Just
pleasure.
tell me how much time you want me to share, and I'll condense it down however much I need to.
Sure. So if you want to take about, I know I've seen you talk. I know you can talk just like you I'm sure you did when you got behind, up in front of the congregation. And I wish I could have been able to see some of that. But so hearing you now, I'd like to hear from, your best explanation of how, first of all, you came to Flat Earth. So I know you were I know you've been married for 26 years. I know that you are a minister, and you've been so for about 14 years. I know you ministered at a church for, was it about 7 years, the last one?
Yeah, well, in total, I've been in ministry since I was 19, but I've been in full-time paid ministry for about 15 years. And this church that fired me, I was there for almost 7.5 years. So that was the big shocker,
Yeah.
Had a good relationship there, and, not everybody loved me to death, but I had a good relationship with most people there. My family was well-liked, and so it just came as such a huge shock,
Very good. Yes, sir. I can only imagine. I mean, hearing your testimony and some of what you spoke about, just I would recommend that anybody watch what you had to say to Robbie on Celebrate Truth in that interview immediately after you had gotten fired. But before you got fired, I remember you saying it was only about a year and a half or so that you had started studying the Word concerning the shape of the earth and cosmology. And so what exactly would you say led you to that?
Well, it was, at first it was just kind of chance, but as I reflect now, I'm positive it was the providence of God. I mean, God was using it in His plan, and He has a sense of humor as well, because I was studying in spring. It was early spring of 2017, so a little over a year and a half ago, and I was studying because a church in Michigan, see, I'm in Ohio, preaching in Ohio. A church in Michigan north of me, about an hour, invited me to come because they did a Wednesday night summer series of lessons. And so they would have a theme on Wednesday nights for the whole summer, and then they would invite maybe 10 or 12, different speakers for the entire summer on Wednesday nights to have about a 45-minute presentation based on the theme. And they would choose, the theme for you, basically. If you said you could speak, they would give you a date and a time. And I just happened to be selected for an awesome topic. It was on the flood. And they wanted me to share my thoughts about the flood. And so I decided, okay, a lot of times the big argument of the flood, not too many people deny there was a flood, but the big argument is typically, was it a universal flood, meaning all over the world, or was it a localized flood? So I had always believed in a worldwide flood, but I decided, okay, I'm going to present some evidence for why it wasn't just a, localized event. And so I presented that, but right before I taught it, I had a few weeks or a month and a half or so before I taught it, I had finished studying early for the lesson. So I was like, okay, I got like a month and a half, man. I'm way ahead here. So I decided for kicks to go to YouTube and see if I could watch a few videos on the flood, see if there was any good flood videos, right?
Right.
And so I watched a few videos, and the two that I watched were pretty good, and then I watched a third one, and it was like so-so. But so you know how YouTube does. When you click on something, then they usually give you or start giving you recommendations for something similar. And in the right-hand side there on the YouTube bar, the recommendations, it popped up The Global Lie by Celebrate Truth.
Yeah.
And probably because, I'm researching the flood. The flood is related to creation, and the earth and all that, the early stuff, the early history of the earth. And so that's probably, why this video popped up. But I really do believe that God wanted me to watch that video. So
yeah,
maybe it was God recommended. You know what I'm saying?
But you went down that rabbit hole of YouTube videos, huh? Click after click, and next thing you know.
The funny thing is the first Flat Earth video I watched didn't actually have Flat Earth in the title. It said The Global Lie.
Right.
And that caught my attention because I had done some sermons about Satan and how he deceives the world. And so my mind was already kind of prepped, to be receptive and interested in a title such as The Global Lie. And I thought, well, I had some free time. I'm gonna check this out. Well, it was like an hour plus, so it was a good long video. But right away, what really grabbed me was not only were they talking about, science says this, here's what the empirical evidence shows. They immediately started talking scripture, comparing that, what does quote-unquote science say with the Bible. And there was clips of Rob Skiba's presentations and different people in there. And honestly, Wes, it was the scripture, the fact that they were using scripture that had a ring of truth. And I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
If there's even a small possibility that these scriptures are true and in context, I need to go back and check these out.
Exactly.
So I made a list of some scriptures, and as soon as I watched the Global Lie video, now I'm seeing in the recommended list there actual Flat Earth videos that say Flat Earth in the title. So I'm like, Flat Earth, like, what does that mean? Because the big idea of the Global Lie wasn't just like, okay, it's flat. I mean, it was like comprehensive biblical cosmology. It's motionless. It's not a globe. that sort of thing. So I'm like, flat Earth, like, is that like a troll? Is that like a joke? I thought it was a troll, right?
Yeah.
But I clicked on one of them, and I can't remember what was the first one. It might have been. I mean, I looked at some Mark Sargent ones. I looked at some ODD ones. So it's hard to remember. But anyway, so I clicked on one, and they were starting to talk about flat Earth, and they were busting out the same scriptures, and I'm like, what?
Yep.
So I started watching more and more and more, and I didn't just watch the Christians. Like I said, I watched some, non-believers, agnostics, whatever to call them. I watched, 3 or 4 different kinds. I probably watched a couple of Eric Dubay ones.
Yeah.
So I mean, I dove down the hole pretty good, and over the next several weeks, I was doing a lot of studying.
Yeah.
And it was probably, within just a few weeks, I was becoming pretty convinced. Within a couple months, I was solidly convinced. And so my wife started noticing I was watching a lot of videos. Now, I watch a lot of Netflix and stuff, in my free time. Anyway, I'm a movie buff. So she probably thought I was sitting over there watching movies, but she could tell I was, really thinking hard because my forehead must have been all wrinkled up or something. So she's like, what are you doing over there? Like, what you got going on over there? And I was sitting there like, what am I supposed to tell her? Like, oh, it's just flat Earth, honey, So I was like, well, I said, I just decided to tell her. And she's like, is that a thing? And I'm like, I think it is. And she's like, really? She's like, well, let me watch. She watched. And she was probably convinced faster than me. I think she was probably on board within a week or so. She was like, oh, yeah,
Very cool.
The Bible says it, man. So, we continued to study, not every day, but consistently off and on for a total of about a year and 5 months. And then my wife texts me one day, and she says, Nate, she says, check this out. And she sent me a link to Take on the World 18 conference. And she's like, this is in Ohio. And I'm like, really? I'm like, how far away? Like 3-4 hours? She's like, no, man. She's like, it's an hour and 15 minutes from our house. I was like, no way, And we had never been to any official truth conferences. And I thought, well, we need a vacation. We need a couple's getaway. And
how long into your studies and like in researching, biblical cosmology and flat Earth, how long into that was this conference taking place?
It was about, if I had to take a guess, it was like maybe a year and say 5 months.
Right when you were good and settled in the understanding, the realization, right? Yeah.
And now keep in mind, Wes, this whole time I'm still preaching and teaching full time for this church. So now if I wanted to hijack the pulpit and go around the leadership and just start preaching it militantly, I had every opportunity to do that for over a year before I was fired.
Yep.
So anyway, that's an important point. So we go to this conference, and we were just blown away, man. I mean, the atmosphere was great. There was a spirit there that just felt like we were among believers, right? It just had that atmosphere.
Who were some of the more prominent truthers that were there that you were meeting for the first time?
Oh, man, I was impressed because it was in this little tiny town on Lake Erie, on the shores of Lake Erie, called Vermilion, Ohio. And I'd never heard of the Take on the World conference before. I knew a little bit of the folks that put it together, the organizers, Chris and Liz Bailey, because I had seen some stuff on NIC TV that they did.
Yeah.
But I didn't know a single person there. I'd never heard of the conference. And so we were shocked to see these were the headliners, man, like Rob Skiba, Robbie Davidson. I didn't know much about Chad Taylor, but I had heard about his book, Earth, Where Are We According to the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Robbie's. Robbie actually put me on his channel. I don't know if you saw it when me and Nathan Thompson actually went out to Louisville during like a zombie walk that they had going on. Yeah. We went out and somebody approached me to do a random street interview, and the video got out and spread, and Robbie put my video there, my interview, on his channel, and I really appreciated him for that. He's a cool guy. I'm a big fan.
I'm sure I saw that. That rings a bell, man. That rings a bell. So, my surprise was that here was this, at least to me, it was a little-known conference, and it's in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. Nice place, but just a tiny little town. And I was like, wow, they got Robbie Davidson there. They got, Rob Skiba. They had a bunch of other people that I had heard of before, but, didn't necessarily know real well. And I knew the Now You See TV, of the Now You See TV people. I know they said John Pounders and David Carrico were going to be speaking, and I'm just like, wow,
Yeah.
they got a lot of well-known people here. Rick Hummer. I was like, okay.
I'm a fan of Rick's too.
Yeah, Rick Hummer. I mean, so it was kind of a, at least on the, biblical cosmology, other than like Dean Odell and a few that weren't there, it was kind of a who's who, and so I was like, wow, this little conference has some big names. So I was excited. Well, we were excited because we knew that, hey, most of these guys, we've been watching their videos for over a year, and won't this be cool to meet the person? And, you hear rumors, oh, Rob Skiba's a shill, this guy's a shill, everybody's a shill, right? And I'm not saying there couldn't be a shill, but once we met these guys, we were like, these are real people, and they all have their own testimony, how they got into this, And so it was a real faith-building experience, and when we left the conference, my wife and I, we were like, well, what do we do with this? Because we both felt strongly that even before the conference, we felt like this was going to be an important piece of the puzzle and maybe a turning point. We didn't know what, but we both felt strongly like God needs us to be here, so we better pay attention.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and so we prayed about it, and we were like, okay, let's just pray for like 40 days. Let's just not do a whole lot of action. Let's just pray and try to wait on the Lord. And all of a sudden, we prayed pretty fervently for about 3 weeks. And then I get called into the church, short notice, unsuspected, and boom, fired. Within 10 minutes, I was already starting to clean out my office. That's how fast this thing was, And at the time, it was tragic. It was hurtful. I was hurt more than I was angry because of just the way that they went about it. It was just really horrible. But looking back, even only 3.5 months, out, almost 4 months out, I see that God answered our fervent prayers. It wasn't how we thought it should be. I thought, in a few more weeks, I'll wait till our next leadership meeting, and I'll bring my Bible and I'll ask them if they'd be willing to sit down and look at some stuff in Genesis. No, man, that wasn't the plan. There was no open-mindedness, no opportunity. They didn't want to even look at a scripture. They just wanted me gone, man. They thought I was a, wacko and a false teacher.
And you had no interactions with any of these church elders about or regarding these findings of yours prior to this at all?
No, this is crazy because, Wes, I hadn't even taught publicly in the church at all about flat earth.
Yeah.
I didn't preach about it. I didn't teach about it. I didn't even talk to, there was only one single person who we knew was woke, who actually wasn't really sure about flat earth, but they were open. They were pretty woke about a lot of other stuff.
I see.
We told them, we were convinced of it and continuing to look into it, but I had never said anything publicly, and so that's the weird thing is that there was some gossip that had started. Somebody found out where we were. They found out about the conference, but they found out what little town we were in, and then of course you Google that town, and boom, what's going to pop up in this little tiny town. The weekend of a big conference, obviously that's going to be what's going to pop up. So they started checking some things out, and apparently they freaked out about some of the topics, which I get it, but I didn't expect them to freak out and then not even talk to me about it.
Yeah.
And fire me with no discussion. So they said, well, we did some research, we watched some videos, blah, blah, blah. They never asked me, Nate, what do you actually believe? What's your intention? What's your plan moving forward? They just did not want to even go there. They just wanted me gone yesterday.
That's so troubling. And so I remember I wrote down a quote from one of your interviews that you did where you said something along the lines of, you would have been just as fired, you know, but you would have been able to walk away feeling better knowing that you were treated with some respect and kindness. And I found that to be very, very, you know, profound and just deep, because I find that to be very similar with a lot of the interactions that we have when we're trying to wake other people up, like whether they be acquaintances, somebody we've never met before, or even friends and family, that people that you've known your whole lives, and know that you wouldn't just go around, you know, trying to convince anybody of something so silly and foolish as something untrue that was blatantly so. But when we come to this, we come to them with this information. I often say, you know, flat earth biblical cosmology is a good test of character, because when somebody reacts to their cognitive dissonance and their conditioning that they've, you know, been programmed with, their true colors kind of show when they're presented with having to react, you know, and having to maybe think about something that contradicts with what they already think they believe. And so it's
that's a really good point. That's a really good point. It does really show someone's true character, and it's sad to say that. I mean, if people watched all my videos that were interviews, they would see, you know, I wasn't bitter, I wasn't angry, I didn't use names. I just stuck to the facts of what happened, how it went down, how it made me feel. And, you know, most of the time most of that 7+ years, I didn't have bad interactions with them. You know, we had little disagreements and things once in a while, but most of the time it was good. And so that's why it was such a shock that their true character in adversity was revealed. And it was, you know, a power and control thing. Even if they felt like they were doing what was best, you know, they should have shown me concern. You know, they should have said, Nate, we're concerned, you know, about your beliefs. You're like, what do you believe? I mean, and if I was a false teacher, biblically, they should have shown me my fault. They should have brought scripture and said, well, you know, you're teaching ABC, but here's what the scriptures say, and you're contradicting scripture. They didn't do any of that. And not just as okay, we gotta, you know, we have to stand up against false teaching, but as a brother, they did not show any concern for my spiritual well-being, my soul. You know, if I was in the wrong, they had the responsibility and opportunity to sit down with me as a brother and say, hey, we're concerned, we love you, you know, we want to talk to you. And that just didn't happen because they saw me as simply a hireling. You know, I was hired and I could be fired. And,
expendable, right?
You know, I should have been treated as a brother. After 7+ years, I should have been treated as a brother. And so that was the part that hurt the most. But that's the quote that you mentioned, you know, that's what I felt like. I was like, you know, you guys, they could have been loving and said, Nate, we're sorry, we just need to part ways. You know, we really don't want to discuss it. But even if you didn't want to discuss it, you could have said it in a nice way. You could have said, you know, we're really not here to discuss it, but we don't want you to feel, you know, angry or upset. We love you. We care about your family. You know, we're going to try to, you know, make a transition as good as it can be. But it was none of that, man. They didn't want to talk. They didn't want to discuss anything. Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that crazy? And it's so much of a kind of a testament of the times we're living in, that even the elect will be deceived, right? And I will have to give you your accolades and nothing but respect, sir, because every bit of interview and responses and public any kind of, you know, claims that you've made, you've handled yourself with nothing but grace and dignity and respect, and I really appreciate that about you. It really shows to your character. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, absolutely.
The funny thing is, Wes, is I was accused of slandering the quote-unquote elder's good name, and I was accused by one of their family members, and I said, now, time out. I said, let's look at the definition of slander. Slander is when you use someone's name publicly, and you say something to damage them, you know, or something that's untrue about them, and you say it publicly. I said, I never used the name of the church that I was with. I never used even a first name of any of the elders that fired me, you know, let alone their last name. I never even said a name.
Right.
I just said the leadership at the church. And I said slander is when you're saying something false. I said everything I shared in the interview was exactly how it went down. So, and then And then, the elders turned around and went to area churches in the Toledo area and basically slandered me. They used my name and said that I was a false teacher. And so, they really hamstrung me and my family from being able to go other places for fellowship. So it's interesting how someone accuses you of something you didn't do, and then they're actually the ones doing it, but they're not admitting it.
Yes, sir.
So,
That's sort of hypocritical, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. I appreciate your compliments. I'm not going to lie to you. There were some times when I was upset and, just wanted to say and do a lot, but I was like, you know what? People are watching. I have to watch my example. Even if they're not handling themselves in a biblical way, I need to do everything I can to try to, share the truth, but be as graceful as I can, and not make this look like I'm bitter and I'm just wanting to attack them. No, I just wanted the truth to come out, not just about flat Earth, but I felt like this is a problem in a lot of churches. This sort of thing could happen in any church in America, because so many churches in America run the church like a business. The elders are like a board of directors rather than shepherds, And so I wanted to expose it to also highlight a problem in church leadership.
Yes.
And even though it was a bad example, I was hoping that other leaders would listen and watch and say, yeah, if we ever have to do something difficult like that, that's not the way we should handle it.
Amen. Yes, sir. Yeah, sometimes the story we have to share with people is an example for others to learn from, to see what we could have done better or what other people could have done better. And you have, from everything I've seen, sir, you've handled yourself well. But so now that you've experienced all that, and I know certainly that wasn't the first time you've been humbled before the Lord, and I know it was one of those kind of prayers, like you say, you were praying fervently, and now all of a sudden the answer that you least expected was given to you, but you can't help but deny you prayed for something to happen or some sort of sign, and here it comes, right?
For God to show us, man, like, if you want us to do something relating to this, if you want me to teach, if you want me to share, we just want to do whatever you want to do. And so you're right. He answered that prayer. I had kind of thought, well, maybe he's going to let me, help this church become a flat earth church. But no, that wasn't the plan.
Mysterious ways, definitely. So I know that I remember seeing something about you having a goal of putting together a new ministry, or what are your plans for the near future and midterm, long-term goals for where you want to take this next on your journey?
Yeah, good question. So right away, I had hundreds of people suggesting to me, Nate, are you going to start a church? Nate, are you going to start a church? And I'm not saying anything bad against those who have. I just felt like, you know what, I'm not feeling that right off the bat. Like, I don't feel like God's saying, okay, this church kicked you out, go start your own church. Like, I said, if that's what the Lord leads me to do, then I'll be obedient to that. But what I felt like was this, basically God was giving me a new ministry using my skills and experiences that I've had over 20 plus years of doing volunteer and, full-time paid work. And I didn't know exactly what that was going to look like, but I figured a lot of it was going to have to do with, teaching and sharing. And so honestly, Wes, I feel like he has already given me a new ministry. If you look at all the stuff I'm doing, I've done some biblical cosmology videos, but now I've started to upload almost every week more of like a sermon type, just a biblical sermon, not necessarily flat earth, because so many people were telling me, I don't have a local fellowship. I got kicked out of my church, or I just don't feel good about sitting in the sermon because the preacher doesn't teach the true biblical creation or a lot of other things that he should be teaching that are in the Bible. And so they said, could you encourage us by doing some lessons? So I almost kind of feel like, in a sense, between my live streams and, my sermons and things like that, which I do those as a live. I don't use the chat feature with the sermons because I just want to focus on teaching and preaching and letting people listen. But many people have told me that this feels like a fellowship, and so it's meeting some type of a need, even though it's not with four walls, I feel like God has given me a ministry that is an online ministry on one hand, and then I've been doing other meetups, local meetups, traveling for meetups, conferences, meeting with individuals, if I'm able to do so. And so almost every single day, Wes, I'm doing ministry with people who contact me, people from the truth community, asking for prayers, seeking godly counsel, sharing their testimony with me about what happened. So it's really cool. Now, it's only been 3 months, right? So a lot has happened starting in January, because as you may have heard, Robbie Davidson it now has his own Celebrate Truth radio show, and he asked me to be his co-host. So as of last Saturday, I started co-hosting this weekly radio show.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you, man. I was floored when he asked me. I'm like, really? You gonna choose me? He's like, well, yeah, you're an obvious choice. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll take it, man.
You didn't have any indication that he would have chosen you?
Well, I mean, he told me 2 weeks ahead before the show. He told me, but I was like, I didn't know for sure. I mean, I had been doing some interim shows with him and Zen Garcia, but I thought Zen was the one that had invited me in to kind of help Phil. And I guess that was all Robbie needed to see, as well as what he also, knew from getting to know me close the last few months. So he was like, no, man. He's like, we work well together. You're an obvious choice. I want somebody that is, better trained in the scriptures than even myself to be my co-host.
Very good.
So I really see that as another large platform that I can help share truth on and share the gospel. And then also, I'm not sure if you saw my announcement, but Canon Quest, Michael Solomon and his wife Steele, they do these Bible trading cards that are illustrated beautifully based on scripture. They have activity books along the same lines, and they're expanding that. And they called me the other day and were like, Nate, we want you to come on board with us and be a Bible researcher for all of our new series of cards and activity books and things that are coming out.
Wow.
And I was like, that's awesome. I said, I would so want to be part of that, because I don't know if you've seen their stuff. You should go to canonquest.com, CANON quest.com. Check it out, but it's amazing. The illustrations are beautiful, and the best thing about it is they're not just, they're not like cartoony like a lot of the mainstream, Christian stuff that's out there.
No.
They're breathtaking. And the best part about it, though, is that they want their illustrations not to just be something that's eye-catching for kids, but they want the kids to learn what the Bible actually says. And so they do research before they do their illustration. And so they've asked me to come on board, and I'm going to be doing work on that every week. So, God may have some other future things in store, but right now I'm almost busy full-time doing all of these different things. And so I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. I mean, in January with the radio show, and then starting to do this Bible research, in addition to everything else I'm doing, I'm just adding that to everything I was already doing. I'm still teaching online. I'm still doing live streams weekly. I'm still going to conferences. And the best thing about all these meetups and conferences for me is not just the awesome speakers and the learning, but I meet people everywhere I go who are my Facebook friends or, supporters on Patreon or YouTube subscribers. And it is so cool to meet them in person, man.
And the reward from this work, although it doesn't always, pay the bills consistently, the reward can be so much more fulfilling than a paper coupon, right?
Yeah, and the Lord is providing. I mean, I've been fired for 3.5, almost 4 months, and we haven't had a bill that has not gone unpaid. So
praise His name.
I feel like, the Lord is going to provide. Seek first the kingdom, His kingdom, and the kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So that's what we're trying to do. But to answer your question, I believe that this is my new ministry, and it's just very different from what I did before as far as location. You know, it's not in between four walls, but it's utilizing all the skills and experience and the training that I had before. It's just doing it in different venues. And honestly,
yeah,
go ahead.
Another unexpected answer to prayer, right?
Yeah.
And so my sentiments exactly, because I would say that I had felt a calling for quite some time. I've always felt a calling to be a leader, even though I wanted to argue with it personally. I was told that I was a sort of leader. And so whereas in recent times when I've delved deeper into Bible study and uncovering so many truths, biblical truths especially, I felt a calling to want to gather a congregation of some sort. And it just felt so awkward to imagine that I set up a building, rented out a space to where I tried to invite strangers and people that I had no connection to, but to still try to make it work. I struggled with the concept of how I could do that with limited resources. But then I realized I have been being gifted and blessed with platforms and opportunities of all sorts, and the following is there when I focus the message on where it's supposed to be, and that is the message of the good news, and you're doing the same. I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, you know, if somebody is called to that, you know, I say, great. If that's your calling, follow it. In fact, I had a guy just north of me in Michigan, the first week I was fired, he told me, he's like, I can take early retirement, like a buyout from my company right now. And he's like, if you decide to start a church building somewhere, a church, he's like, I'll put up $15,000 to help you start it. So it wasn't that I didn't have lack of funding. I mean, that was amazing for someone to offer, but it just didn't feel like I just wasn't led to that. I felt like, no, it's too early to make a decision like that. I need to just try to take it one day at a time and see where God takes this. And honestly, if I was trying to minister to a congregation again, you know, at a building and everything I'm doing now, I mean, my family would never see me. So I don't want to lose my family, you know, in the process of winning others. So
I can understand that completely. Yeah. Well, hey, Nate, so what's one of your favorite truther songs, would you say? Like out of the Flat Earth community, that's music that's been put out, right?
Dude, there's so many, but let me see if I can find. There was one that was just released today that was really cool. You know Amber Plaster, she did Geocentric and some of these other ones.
I'm a good friend and big fan of Amber, yes, sir.
Okay, there was one that's called Dear Babylon, and it was on the Lifting the Veil CD, but she came out with an official video on YouTube today, and I really think that's like maybe my new favorite song. But Flat Earth Man, he's got a bunch of great songs.
Which one's your favorite?
Yeah, I don't know if I could pick one of his.
Oh, come on. I know you might not know the name of it, but give us a little sample.
Well, I Don't Believe in Gravity. That's a great song.
Yes, it is.
That's probably one of my favorites.
So
I did get a CD.
You did?
Out at FEIC 18, yeah.
Did you get Amber Plaster's CD, Lifting the Veil?
I didn't. I was going to buy it I'd never heard of her before, but at Take on the World, you know, we really weren't connected to people. We were just watching some videos and studying the Bible. So we weren't connected into the community. We didn't know people personally.
Right.
And, at the time, to be honest with you, I bought a couple of books that I wanted to get. I've been wanting to get for a while, and some of the authors were there. And I had a choice between buying, you know, this other book I've been wanting or buying like some CDs. And I just decided, well, you know, I can always go online and get the stuff later. So,
yeah.
But now that I've heard some of Amber's stuff and this new one I'm really enjoying, I probably will go and purchase one of her CDs. I understand you do some music too.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Yeah, I just started recently, and so the last song that I actually just finished about a week or two ago now was with Amber Plaster's husband. He goes by Sebastian Calico, and his name is Anthony Stover. They they have several tracks on that new album together. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Ghost. They did a Ghostbusters remake, kind of a cover, and it was called Globebusters, and it was for the Globebusters guys, the channel. And they did a song together. Yeah, Anthony was the rapper on the.
Did they do the music
for that?
Yeah, that was them. That was Amber singing, and Anthony was the, her husband was the deeper voice rapper on there. And so I got to do a song with him. And so, yes, I highly recommend that whole album, that whole new Lifting the Veil by Amber. I actually played Dear Babylon on the last show, my premiere debut show that I did. But because that's one of your new favorites, and it's news to me that she just finished the new music video that she did. I knew they were working on it.
She just posted the link on Facebook today. I was like, oh, cool, I got to check this out.
I'm excited. I'm like a school kid right now. I want to hear it so bad. I want to see it because I've heard the song so many times. I've listened to that album in regular rotation, and it's a dream come true to know that I'm going to get to work with Amber pretty soon. We're going to do a song probably with her husband as well, and I look forward to that. So I'm going to play real quick. We're going to take a quick music break, and if you have some more time, I'd love to chat with you a little bit longer.
Yep, I got a little more time. So
Cool beans. Well, this is Amber Plaster's Dear Babylon, her second single off of Lifting the Veil, and then we're going to play Flat Earth Man, Don't Believe in Gravity. You're now listening to the Geocentric Eccentric with Wes Blaze Music. We'll be right back.
remember when I learned in school about gravity. It was so cool. I had a teacher that knew it all. She taught me how water could stick to a ball, how buildings stick to the underside of a ball that spins like a carousel ride. Man, it all sounded crazy to me, but I love learning about gravity. I couldn't wait to tell my dad about the amazing day that I had. He picked me up, I was bursting with pride. He opened up the door and I jumped inside. He smiled at me and said, "How was your day?" I said, "Dad, I was blown away. I learned about this magical thing, but it's kinda got my head in the spin. I learned about this Newton guy. When an apple fell on his head, he surmised that there must be a force that's pulling it down, and everything's being sucked to the ground. A force that sticks us all to this ball, the people, the buildings, the oceans and all." So it was written in history, Newton had discovered gravity. Well, he just looked at me and said, "Don't believe in gravity. Don't believe in fantasy. Don't believe, 'cause the theory's all it is. It's never been proven, but they teach it to the kids." Well, my dad felt a little bit sad for me when I mentioned that word gravity. He said, "Have a little independent thought, question what you've just been taught. I mean, how the hell could a ball that spins make a force so strong that sucks everything in? Yet birds and insects fly unaffected. Gravity must be so selective. Think about it logically, 'cause that don't make no sense to me. You gotta question all those preachers preach, question all those teachers teach. You see, gravity is just a bunch of bull. That Newton guy's just a lying fool. These guys like Newton shouldn't be trusted. Their free Masonic lies have been busted. In fact, my boy, it's density, and that's why things fall down, you see. An object always falls to the ground if it's heavier than the air that surrounds. If it's lighter than air, then it'll rise. It'll keep on floating up to the skies. That's what's known as buoyancy, and that makes more sense than gravity. So let me tell you one more time, boy. Don't believe in gravity. Don't believe in fantasy. Don't believe, 'cause the theory's all it is. It's never been proven, but they teach it to the kids. He said, "I'm sorry, son, for bursting your bubble, but that kind of thinking can get you in trouble. These theories they try to put in your head, it's all just pseudoscience," he said. "They'll have you believing in all kinds of crap. That gravity nonsense belongs in the trash. Believe me when I say to you, there ain't no gravity, and that's the truth." Well, my daddy made me think that day. He made me think in a different way. I did some thinking for myself. I put that theory back on the shelf. That gravity crap is indoctrination, not truthful, trusted information. People need to wake up and see there ain't no such thing as gravity. You let me hear you sing it one more time now. Don't believe in gravity. Don't believe in fantasy. Don't believe, 'cause the theory's all it is. It's never been proven, but they teach it to the kids. One more time now. Don't believe in gravity. Don't believe in fantasy. Don't believe, 'cause the theory's all it is. It's never been proven, but they teach it to the kids.
Yeah, that's right. That was Flat Earth Man, the conspiracy music guru. Don't believe in gravity. That's Alex Michael. He's a cool cat. That was one of Pastor Nate Wolf's favorite truther songs. And I'm back with him from the break. Glad to have you on, brother. What's some topics that you feel like are worthy of discussing in recent events amongst, I know you're now an integrated part of the online social media, specifically Facebook, truther community, the Flat Earth community, and a growing body of Christ that's represented on Facebook. So is there anything in that community that you're noticing is kind of a controversial topic or something in current events that you find interesting?
Well, I'm probably not as savvy as some, even though I am very connected to the community. Obviously, my interests are, of course, the biblical stuff, and the cosmology. If it's not too, what's the word? If it doesn't get people fussed up, of course, but there's a big controversy in some circles with Torah versus non-Torah, and I'll just tell you, I'm studying all these things out for myself. I'm trying to be a Berean, and as you know, for a couple of weeks there was some dust up over that on social media, and things have calmed down quite a bit. Yeah. So I would definitely say, that's going to be a continued conversation, and you're going to have people on all different sides. Mm-hmm. But I tried not so much to stay neutral. I've always been honest about, how I feel. But really, honestly, it's going to take me some time to study these things out for myself because, other people have done, investigations and good videos on both sides, and I've watched some of those, but I know that my responsibility is to the Lord first and foremost. I have to study to show myself approved.
Amen.
Not just, watch enough videos and someone else did that study, and so now I should just pick a side.
Right.
So I will always go with what I believe the Bible teaches, and so I'm just in prayer about that. So that's obviously a big subject within the truth community. And then, of course, you have other things that come up. Social media stuff is so fickle. Something will be on the social media. It'll be blowing up for a few days, maybe a week, and then the next week, people almost forget about it. Like the Logan Paul thing, there was a lot of strong feelings, but...
Were you there at that conference?
Yeah, I was in Denver, yeah.
You were, and then you were also at the Skyfall conference, correct?
Yeah, man, I've been to a lot of conferences.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking that's at least two opportunities that I had directly because Nathan Thompson was staying here with me in Kentucky, working with me, and I didn't have my affairs in order to be able to go to either of those. It was right during the time of my little brother's wedding, and I missed both of those when I could have had the chance to meet you in person then, but that's all right.
I'm going to get a chance to go to California, but I just purchased the plane ticket, so I will be at QE19.
Question everything. Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, but because I was just waiting to see if the Lord would provide some funds, because I promised my wife, I said, I'm not going to buy a bunch of tickets, and go to Southern California if I can't help my family pay the bills, you know what I'm saying? And the Lord provided, so.
Did he? Fantastic. It's good to hear. Praise his name. So it's so interesting, and I find it so curious that you brought up a topic that I had in mind exactly when I was mentioning what controversial or topics, because on my last show, my first show here, that I had a whole segment dedicated to covering that, and from my findings, because like you say, it was a very interesting debate to me, and people were getting very heated up, much like when a lot of us first found God through studying biblical cosmology at first. And I wanted to say earlier how interesting it is also that you had been a Christian and a minister for much of your life and found, the biblical cosmology after the fact, whereas for me and a lot of others I know, I started off as doubtful, a believer for most days, but somewhat of a non-believer in many ways, and then in the sense that finding biblical cosmology woke me up to the validity of the Bible and the truth of Christ.
Yeah.
And that, was a stepping stone to my salvation.
I just, I thought, well, I'll mention it just because it had been something that, up until a few weeks ago was really starting to get fired up. And now it's died down a bit.
Yes.
But I know a lot of people are wondering, well, where's Nate at of this? And some people are like, well, why aren't you posting your view? And it was like, well,
yeah.
I was sharing honestly where I was at. I'm like, I'm new to most of this stuff. I mean, I didn't even know much about a Torah community until I went to take on the world. So I was like, you're going to have to give me some time because I'm not going to pick a belief just because people want me to, or I'm feeling pressure from, one side or the other. I was like, I need to study this out for myself and come to a conclusion that I believe has been prayerful. And the thing is that even if I decided this or that, as far as what you and others have heard of me, that my style is not to be confrontational. Now, there's a time and a place to, speak the truth and do it boldly, and I'm not against that. I've done that many, many times.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're going to win someone over to an important side, opinion, truth, you have to be very careful how you do that, because there's a fine line between speaking the truth, and doing it in love. And it is loving to tell people the truth, but sometimes people say truth in an unloving way. And when you start to see name calling, calling people terrorists and calling people heretics, and, that was the part that I thought, I'm not going to dive into this and be part of a name-calling, scenario.
Very good.
Anyway, hopefully people will be patient with me and pray for me. I'm soliciting prayers to that end, is that a lot of stuff is new for me, and I'm having to study new topics. I'm having to restudy things I've always believed and taught, because I want to check myself. I want to check my doctrine,
Yeah, and that's a very honest and wise answer, kind of a look before you leap kind of deal, whereas you can honestly say you're humble enough to admit, look, I don't know the specifics well enough to really formulate a solid opinion that I feel I can back on Scripture, and that's a valuable, honorable characteristic that you portray, that you want to, do your due diligence, and like you say, study to show thyself approved. You really nailed it on the head with that. And so I'd like to share with you from my findings that it really summarized the whole gist of it the best for me when I realized that in the end, in Revelation, that dragon is wroth with the remnant of her seed, it says, the remnant of the body of Christ that keep his commandments. And so what's important to understand, I feel like, for the community that's, kind of bickering back and forth on this topic of Torah, and like you say, Torah terrorists that they're labeling people. I said in my last show that I thought that was kind of a dangerous generalization to make, to lump everybody that follows anything from the Torah together, because what I find most interesting is that I guess a lot of people aren't, surely they know that the Torah is just the first 5 books of the Bible. And then oftentimes it can also be placed onto old Jewish law, and I can understand where that misinterpretation and kind of misunderstanding, confusion lies. But whereas it's clear to me that the Mosaic law, the Talmud, the law of the land at that time, was done away with, whereas when God wrote with, a lot of people say that God didn't write the Bible, man did. Well, they're forgetting the one part that God himself wrote with his own finger the 10 Commandments on the tablets, right? And then it said that when Christ came, he tells everybody, they're asking him, what's important about the commandments? Which commandments are so important? He says basically all the commandments hang on this: love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and love thy neighbor. And so what I found most interesting was that when you really break down the 10 Commandments, the first 4 are really great examples of how to love God. It's like he details it out for us. And then the last 6 show us how to love our neighbor very well, actually. And then so to notice that if you're a true believer in the Word and in Christ, you know that Christ is God, manifest in the flesh.
Yeah.
And so we know God doesn't change his mind also from other scriptures. So for him to have written in stone with his own finger 10 commandments, I don't think that was something that he was saying, you know what, I'm doing away with those, and these two now are the only thing you got to worry about. I think he was trying to simplify it for the people and saying, just, here it is in a nutshell. Love God, love your neighbors. And that the 10 Commandments expound upon that. Yeah.
And I agree with you. You know, now, if someone is a Torah terrorist, you know, if they're just really being harsh on people and being legalistic and whatever else, you know, hey, man, I say, you know, go for it. You know, some people need to be rebuked. But I agree with you. The thing that bothered me was that I have, because of Take on the World and other things, you know, I have a lot of Facebook friends and a lot of friends now that, you know, are Torah observant or however you want to call that. And so most of the people that I know are loving, you know, kind people. They believe that Jesus Christ is their Savior, and they're not saved by keeping, you know, a set of laws or rules, but they keep it for obedience. They keep it for righteousness. And so, you know, I think the vast majority of the Torah folks, just going by, I can only say what I've experienced, is that most of them are very, you know, kind. They love the Father. And so my thing is to say, you know, we've got to examine each person on a case-by-case basis. And, you know, if somebody comes out and says it's not the blood of Jesus that saves us, then, yeah, all bets are off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll be the first one to call that out and say no. But, you know, to just label, you know, to paint everyone with a broad brush is not okay, you know, and to paint all churches, because some people are really down on the modern church, and they're like, hey, you know, you got to get out of Babylon, you got to do this. You know, there's some truth to that. I'm certainly not going to deny that. I've seen it firsthand. You know, I've experienced it. However, there are good people in bad churches, and there are good churches. You know, you have to look at every congregation on a case-by-case. You can't just say, oh, all churches are bad now, you know, flush them all down the toilet.
Absolutely.
You know, that's not fair either, you know what I'm saying?
Of course. Yeah.
All pastors are this, that, and the other. They're all money-grabbing. You know,
that we know that's not the case, right? But in the case that these people that are labeling a group as Torah terrorists for whatever reason, I'm not even sure who they're talking about, right? So I'm not going to mention any names. But when they say Torah terrorists, if in fact they are just referring to people that adhere to something or anything from the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, I also want to turn around and say, so if you're labeling anybody that enforces or supports anything that's in the Torah as something negative, then we have to also acknowledge that the account of creation was in the Torah. We have to acknowledge that so many other things, prophecy of Christ to come was in the Torah. And so to throw it all away is just kind of silly, and it's I don't like it that a lot of people are kind of treating it like that. But I love this kind of back and forth to be able to try to get to the bottom of it, and both of us can admit that we're learning. I'm open to evidence because, you know, I can't say that I know this is what God meant, but, you know, but I can definitely say I want to know, and I'd like it if we can all do so together in fellowship and with love in our hearts, for sure.
And, you know, I mean, I think I would kind of be a hypocrite if I'm saying, you know, well, I'm open to truth, and I recognize that I had some things wrong, and I need to restudy some things, but then not be willing to do a diligent study on the subject. You know, I mean, that would be kind of disingenuous for me to just say, no, I don't need to spend the time in that. I'm just going to make a judgment right now. And now if other people have studied it out, you know, and they're very convinced that it's not biblical, then I'm not getting after those kind of folks. I'm just saying, I hope people understand my situation is that much of this is all new to me, and I need to take the time. I don't think this is a light subject. I don't think it's something that you just kind of, oh, I got a long weekend, you know, let me binge some YouTube videos, or, you know, let me check a few scriptures out. For me, I know that how I have best been brought to truth is by a careful, diligent, prayerful study, and then when you know the truth, then you know it, and then you can march out afterwards. So, yeah. Anyway,
I agree.
I didn't want to bring up, a quote-unquote controversial topic. I just want
I kind of brought it up. I was curious.
I just want to be real honest with you and say, that's been one of the big things that I've learned about.
It has, isn't it? And I learned a lot, too. I think it's happening for a reason, because it's kind of teaching and it's inspiring so many people that thought, okay, I've learned this and this and this, and I'm starting to tighten my walk with Christ. It's inspiring so many people to try to get to the bottom of what that means. And I think you really nailed it, Nate, when you said that we're not saved by anything other than the blood of Christ, that by grace alone we are saved. And a lot of people use that in defense of being able to say somebody is a Torah terrorist, because they imagine that somebody that follows the Torah or is a Torah abider thinks that, they imagine a Torah person thinks that they are only saved by obedience. And I'm here to say that I think the 10 Commandments that are in the Torah are still relevant to us, but I don't think that is what saves us, because I know that only by His grace we wouldn't have the option to be saved if it weren't for Him and His grace for us. But because we love Him, we obey.
Need for a better covenant, but the question, like you said, is, does that mean everything else is obsolete? And that's the part that I'm thinking, this is something I really need to check into.
It is. And does it have to be all or nothing? Does it have to be that everything else is obsolete? I don't think that's the case. I think there's some things that He makes clear are no longer applicable, and that there's others that aren't. But like you say, and like I say, that obedience isn't necessarily have to be labeled as legalism, and obedience isn't what we do to get saved. It's what we do because we're saved. And all too often, even people that don't think necessarily the 10 Commandments apply to us in this modern time, for whatever reason, I think it also comes as no surprise that if they are true followers of Christ, then they're already obeying the 10 Commandments without realizing that's something that's necessary, maybe. You know what I mean?
They should be doing those things and loving God and loving their neighbor.
And that's what's beautiful about it. They're written on our hearts, I truly believe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm really enjoying talking with you, brother. What other topics of discussion do you think might be prevalent before we wrap it up?
I think that we do have to be cautious with new information, because like I said, the speed of the internet and social media is so fast. I'll just tell on myself a little bit. How's that?
Okay. Go ahead.
The other day I mirrored a video from YouTube, and I didn't realize that it was it was an interview that somebody posted from a scientist, and a quote-unquote scientist. They don't have a degree. But anyway, it was a little chopped up, and I didn't realize it was. I didn't realize that they had edited from an original video, and I don't think I misrepresented anything by posting the video, but I had somebody who just, flipped out.
They lost it.
On my Facebook, and we're kind of upset, and we're calling me out, oh, you're supposed to have, you're a minister, and you got to watch your example, and how could you post this? And I was just like, whoa, So, I just said, okay, someone did post the full video link, and so I just said, hey, check them both out and make your own opinion. So I guess I have to recognize that, I need to double check sources. I think we need to double check things. And just because the speed of the internet is so fast, sometimes something comes out, everybody wants to be the first. I wonder how many people, when Logan Paul got up on stage, at Flat Earth International, they were about ready to upload the video, about that before the guy even shut his mouth, because they're like, oh, if I get the first video out. So, I just think that people should just not be pressured into being so fast. There's something to be said about just, okay, let me check this out, let me check a few sources, because, we do have to be, accountable and responsible. And most other people that saw that thing I posted on Facebook, they didn't freak out about it. Just one person really kind of lost it, man. I was like, whoa.
Okay,
it happens, doesn't it?
Bad day at work or something.
We get those, yeah, especially when you're in a leadership position. I know you're no stranger to being under attack. And so I know with running my page, I run Messenger of the Most High on Facebook. I do, I do my due diligence to try to do everything I can to make sure the content that I deliver and mirror there is accurate and holds true to the Word of God and, to the body of Christ. And so when every now and then I'll make a mistake, I appreciate it when somebody points it out to me. But it's more appreciated when they do so with love, right? And be like, hey, just so you know, I wanted to point this out to you instead of putting you on blast on Front Street.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I have people are looking to someone like myself, more so necessarily than just the average person posting. But I hope people realize, I am just a man. I'm not perfect. And so it's, when someone makes a mistake, it's great when someone says, hey, this was kind of a chopped up, edited version. You should check out the full, but like you said, there was a way to say that. But, I make one potential mistake. And it was kind of like, well, I'm done with you. Like, you're supposed to be perfect, and I'm done with you. I'm like, whoa, who said out, hold the phone,
Much like there's a polite way to debate, much like there's a polite way to fire somebody, and a polite way to live life, right?
Yeah, you're onto it. Yeah, absolutely. So I would just say, we do have to be cautious and just, not be timid, but just check our sources and just, sometimes on social media, people post things like, well, this is really funny, but it's dropping 5 F-bombs, in the meme. It's kind of like, just think for 5 seconds and not just with your brain. Think with a mind for scripture and example, and say, okay, this is pretty funny and I could post this, but so if people would just pause for a few seconds and consider what they're posting, whatever content it is, even if it's just an Instagram photo or something like that, I think that's important for all truthers, whether they're believers or not, but especially for those who are professed believers, because I see a lot of stuff on Christians' pages which is not appropriate for a Christian to be posting. And, I'm not trying to be holier than thou. I'm just saying, it's not just the quote-unquote ministers, that need to be watching what they post, but any believer needs to ask, hey, is this going to honor Christ? Is this going to tear someone down? And, then go from there after you pass through those gates.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, brother. Really, honestly, like I've been tempted to want to, and it does put us in a position to where you don't want to come off as holier than thou on a high horse or anything. But I'm tempted so many times to tell people that I kind of love and respect lots of people I've never met, obviously. But in this close, tight-knit Facebook community that we have, there's some people that I feel are loved and respected and followed by many. And they would do so much better by setting a better example with the sort of language and content and delivery that they choose to execute. And it's something that I myself learned to be mindful of here in recent times as well. So to each their own, can't judge the journey, but we can do our best to be good examples for others as well, can't we?
Yeah, I agree. And, I'm not new to ministry. I'm not new to the Bible. And dealing with people, individuals and souls, but a lot of this is new to me. So, I'm doing my best to get up to speed and to get to know, not just be connected to the community, but really know the community. And so I just ask everybody to pray for me in that, because I feel the pressure, but I want it to be a positive pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want it to be something that causes me to be timid or to shrink back. But I want God to use me in a powerful way. I just want to make sure that I do so with wisdom and, proper etiquette, and some of this, public speaking, all of that stuff, it's just different than any kind of topics I've done before. So in some ways I'm kind of new at this. And so I hope people will, give me a chance to get up to speed and study out some things that I haven't really shared opinion on, because I'm not ready to yet. I've got to be diligent before I can do that, because people are going to listen, to what I say, and they're going to evaluate that as a leader, and I don't want to be premature on that.
And I think that's a noble way to go about it, brother. And you have my respect, and I'm on your side, man. I'm going to do everything I can to be able to meet up with you guys Sunday. This is going to air here Saturday, so anybody that hears it, if you'd like to kind of give a shout out, is it an open invitation for anyone in the area?
Yeah, as long as they just message me, if they can message me on Facebook, because I'm kind of one of those organized guys. Like, I'd like to know if we're going to have 5 versus 15 people, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to just mob into some restaurant and be like, hey, we're here, you know? Like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? I think it's only going to be a handful of people, but it is an open invitation. If someone could shoot me, friend me on Facebook or shoot me a message if you're already a friend, just so I know. And this is the cool thing. Lord willing, I'll have baptized this guy, and then we're going to go to lunch. So it's kind of cool. It's like, hey, I'm actually doing ministry, not just the Flat Earth meetup, but this is a ministry trip. I mean, this is exciting for me.
It is.
Yeah, it's open.
Exciting stuff.
It's open to the public.
Brother, I look forward to being able to meeting you in person. I love everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
So your Facebook page, Nate Wolfe, W-O-L-F-E. Nate is N-A-T-E, right? And then your YouTube page is Fired for Truth, and it's F-I-R-E-D-F-O-R, capital T-R-U-T-H, correct?
Yeah, and let me tell you, too, that
I've got a new email address if anybody wants to contact me, because I do Messenger, but like if someone's listening and they don't, they're not friends with me on Facebook or something, I have a new email address if I could share it real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is Nate. It's real complicated. Nate at firedfortruth.org. So if you want to message me, Nate at firedfortruth.org. I did purchase that as a domain, and I will be turning that into a website. It's not up yet, but because I haven't developed the site. But if you want to email me, Nate at firedfortruth.org, that's another way to contact me.
How cool. Well, very good. I will be a follower of that page, and I will lock down that email to be able to contact you from time to time as well, because right now I'm on a Facebook ban, so I would need that to get a hold of you. But I got your number now too, brother, so it was really great talking to you.
Feel free to text me, call me, and let me know for sure on Sunday if you think you'd be there. If you can't make it, I'm sure sometime in the near future I'll be back in that area again. And, maybe we can even work something out to do a meetup in your more immediate area.
And just to confirm for the listeners, that meetup is in Louisville, and you said you'd like them to message you personally for, to confirm RSVP kind of style.
Let me know how many people are coming. It's going to be at a restaurant called Senor Iguanas.
Right on.
I think there might be a few of those, but it's the one that's on Outer Loop.
I can grub down on me some Mexican food.
Yeah, it's really good, man. It's good. I was impressed. So, yeah, but just message me. I can give you some more specific details, and that's going to be Sunday. I'm actually going to meet this guy at 1 to do the baptism, so we're probably going to push the lunch to about the meetup about 1, maybe 1:45-ish. So be
Very
flexible with us, plus or minus 5-10 minutes.
Very good. And so one last thing I could ask from you, if you wouldn't mind.
This is Nate Wolfe, Fired for Truth, and you are listening to the Geocentric Eccentric with Wes Blaze.
Thank you very much, sir. That was perfect. I really appreciate that.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Nice. No, that's cool, man. I'm glad we could connect, and hopefully we'll see you Sunday. If not, no big deal. We'll make something happen down the road for sure.
I really
Seems
look forward
like
to
I
it.
end up in Louisville area like several times a year, so
Do you? Nice.
we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Fantastic. I think I can make it happen this weekend as well. So I look forward to it, brother. Much love to you. God bless you, and keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Thanks for having me on, Wes.
Thank you, Nate. Yes, sir. No worries. Have a good one. That was truly inspiring. I hope everybody got as much out of that as I did. But I'd like to play another song that I debuted last time, put it in regular rotation for you guys. Wake Up by Wes Blaze Music, yours truly, and Sebastian Calico, a.k.a. Anthony Stover. And when we come back, I have another special guest. I'm going to keep it a secret until the song is over, so hang tight. on the Geocentric Eccentric with Wes Blaze.
Wake up, you need to 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 wake up.
We used to play pretend,
wake up.
We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away.
Wake up.
We used to play pretend,
wake up.
Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face saying,
wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake.
We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away, saying,
wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake.
We used to play pretend,
wake up.
Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face saying,
wake up, you need to wake up.
Yeah.
Wake
Land
up.
of the thieves, home of the slaves. 19 billion, that's 50 million a day. That's what NASA gets, just to lie to the human race. Pretending to go to space, but they fake it right to our face. And they say they moonwalk, but that just wasn't the case. Trying to tell us there's a rover on Mars, but it's a fake. CGI satellites, but I don't see a trace. People everywhere waking up, we're shaking up the place. So if you let me, I can shake up the thoughts that you tend to think of. Cause I fell in love with truth and I don't ever wanna break up. Let's take a look what's underneath the Hollywood makeup. So much that gets put in our face is straight made up. This place they call a planet that they lied about the shape of. They can play pretend, but me, I'm calling for
wake up.
Freemasons and Zionists, the ones that put the eye on it. Try to say they scientists, but I can't say I'm buying it. Do you know what science is and how that they decided it? They just keep rewriting it to keep us from enlightenment. Knowing that they lying it, stay promoting violence. Knowing that we're gullible products of our environment. No, I can't be silent and nor will I be compliant. Not reliant on the tyrants to fall if we're not defiant. I can't seem to find the curvature. Total social overture. The sun is small and local to the earth as it encircles her. Nothing like the lies of elite sun worshippers, but up against the Bible, I don't even need interpreters. Earth is flat and motionless. Open up a scope and see a boat across the ocean. This chemtrails clogging up what used to be an openness, and fluoridated water come in concentrated dosages. I'm conscious of the brokenness. People all over the place deceived. I hate to see. Space is not a place you see. It's fake. It's only make-believe. Constellations prove that the earth doesn't move, but the liars on wires wanna take away the truth. I'm screaming.
Wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake up.
We used to play pretend,
wake up.
We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away.
Wake up.
We used to play pretend,
wake up.
Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face saying,
wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake up.
Wherefore he saith, awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise.
Have you ever wondered why, when you looked up in the sky, exactly how the sun and moon ended up the same size? It's 90 million miles and 250,000. Y'all can peep my poker face, cause that defies some odds. Yeah, I'll tell you this is gambling, with every dose of Ambien. You're managing to transfer in, so let me be your wake-up call. Let me be your wake-up call. You ever been to space at all? Who's above us? One that loves us or aliens that hate us all? Man, I used to catch some Z's on this flat plane. Then the alarm clock rang and all that changed. Like, motionless. Please tell me you see how fat this ocean is. The devil lied to us, lied to you, lied to me. Tried to hide my creator, made me play some hide and seek. But he speaks, and if I seek him that, he won't hide from me. If I knock it, he will open it and show me what I need. That greed is the enemy. Forked tongue of the serpent as he dangles from the trees in. Trying to keep us all far, far away from obedience. Trying to take our will and our next of kins. Had us living for the sun, not the S-O-N. So good morning, beautiful. Time to rise and shine. Time to breathe this morning air. Open those sleepy eyes. Yeah, good morning, wonderful. Time to shake them dreams. Feel a savior's love for you. This world ain't what you think, man. Good morning, beautiful. Time to rise and shine. Time to breathe this morning air. Open those sleepy eyes. Yeah, good morning, wonderful. Time to shake them dreams. Feel the savior's love for you. This world ain't what you think. This world ain't what you think. It's time to
wake up. You need to wake up. You need to wake up. You need to wake up.
We used to play pretend, used to play pretend. Wake up. We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away. Wake up. We used to play pretend, used to play pretend. Wake up. Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face, saying, wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake. We would build a rocket ship and then we fly far away, saying, wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake. We used to play pretend, used to play pretend. Wake up. Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at the face, saying, wake up, you need to wake up, yeah. Wake up.
Lord, Father in heaven, I just want to thank you for everything you do in our lives, Lord. Thank you for my brother West here and for what you've appointed him to do, to give him this platform to reach the world with truth and to just reach out to fellow brothers and sisters. And I pray that you just be with us during our conversation. Help us to know exactly what we need to say. And I pray that there's somebody out there that needs to hear exactly what we're saying, Lord. So just guide our words, guide our minds, direct our path, Lord. And fill us with your Holy Spirit right now. And we love you, and we just want to thank you for all that you do, how you provide for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Very well said, brother. Chills. Absolutely. Thank you for that warm welcome, brother. You were just listening to yours truly, West Blaze Music, featuring the lyrical talents of Sebastian Calico, and the song was called Wake Up. Had to do an encore performance after premiering it on the last show, and I hope to have him on very soon. However, there was somebody else I talked about there that I wanted to have on, and so without further delay, my second guest, although he and I have never met, it sometimes can feel like we have. Very kindred souls we are. He has an awe-inspiring testimony, a wealth of knowledge, and a passion for Christ that I really respect him for. You may know him from his work with Little Light Studios, where they do some great work covering Bible study and prophecy and current events. Additionally, he is Truth to the Youth on YouTube. And last but not least, if you own or have seen someone wearing a Bible Says Flat Earth shirt, we have this guy to thank for his time and effort put into printing those up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mikey Jenny. How are you today, Mikey?
Hey, Wes Bleezy, my kneesy. So good to be on the show, man, and I'm honored. And thank you so much for that great introduction, man.
Good, brother. I'm happy to hear it. Thank you for joining me on the show. I sincerely appreciate it. So you are somebody that, like myself, is musically inclined, and we have that in common, as you know. I've had a chance to hear some of your music, and I know you said you checked out mine. I was curious, what did you think about it? How's it make you feel, brother?
Dude, I love it, man. You know, I have been rapping for a couple of years, and, well, it's been a while. I used to do it for the world, and we were going to move to California and continue this thing. And, you know, God changed my heart, changed my path, and now I try to write verses that spread some kind of truth, either the gospel or the, you know, expose the powers that be or whatever. But, you know, it's all about truth now.
That's another thing we have in common. It's a big kind of importance to us now these days. Looking back, it never really was for the longest time, right? But now we look and see what kind of influence that putting out music that somebody would actually want to listen to, what kind of influence that can carry with it, and how that's a responsibility on somebody to, you know, convey a message, and what that message can, you know, really teach somebody or do for somebody. And so it's very important in today's world, especially here in these last days, that we spread a message of empowerment, a message of salvation above all, right? And so that's another thing we agree on that, you know, we didn't always agree with in the past, right? So let that segue kind of into some of your testimony. I know you have quite a few videos on your YouTube channel, and you're not ashamed of being able to say where you came from, but give us a brief version of where you were at in life and what happened to get you to where you are now.
All right, so really I've been a truth seeker as long as I can remember. I remember in elementary school going to the school library and checking out books on ghosts and aliens. I mean, this is like, I'm looking back like kind of weird that they even had those kind of books in the school library, but I've always been a truth seeker. My parents were raised Baptist, went to Baptist schools all their life, graduated, and raised me in church. And, you know, I've seen a lot of things. You know, as a kid, you kind of believe things because your parents do, but the older I got, you know, we started experimenting with other churches, more charismatic, Word of Faith churches, and I've seen healings and exciting things. And so as a upcoming youth, I kind of got into that and was like, yeah, you know, and I was excited about being a Christian. I had accepted Christ when I was probably like 8, maybe 9 years old, and was into the youth and everything. These were youth groups where we were mosh pitting to DC Talk, Jesus Freak. I mean, I'm old. I'm 35 years old, so this is dating myself. But when I started to reach around 12 and 13 years old, I started having these real deep thoughts and doubts and skepticisms that I would ask Christians about, and they never could give me an answer that satisfied me. In fact, sometimes they would say, you know, some things we just won't know till we get to heaven, and that just added to my skepticism. Like, I need answers, and these people don't have it. So, of course, Hollywood made witchcraft look cool. I mean, the movie The Craft had 4 hot chicks doing all these cool spells, and so that was appealing. And I didn't see it then, but I can look back and see now how much the media has made witchcraft look cool to kids, and I know that had a huge influence, whether I knew it or not. So in my search for truth, I started thinking, you know, Christians just think everything is bad that they don't understand. If they don't understand it, it's of the devil. So maybe there's something to this witchcraft thing. Maybe there's power here that they just don't understand, and they're just calling it wrong. So I kind of went down that road. I had internet. It was kind of a new thing back then. I'd just research and read forums and hear people talking about levitating and voodoo and binding and all this stuff. So I started really getting into that. I wouldn't say I ever became like a witch or anything. I still was just truth seeking, but I knew that Christianity, I was just totally turned off of it at this point. I was literally an anti-Christ. Like, they call it an ABC religion, anything but Christianity. I just thought it has to be out there somewhere. There's got to be, you know, I was an agnostic, but I knew that I believed in these paranormal things that couldn't be explained by science. So I just wondered what all that stuff was. Well, I played around with Ouija boards and did all kinds of things, and all that stuff left me empty and hopeless. And so I was just like, if this is all life is, you know, it seems so depressing. What can I do in my life that's ever gonna mean anything if I just die and rot in the ground? So that thought was so depressing. I was like, well, I got one life to live it up. YOLO. I feel like I started that before it was trendy. So I just drank and smoked all my thoughts away and lived this life in a drunken haze. And then one day my cousin, who I hadn't seen in like 8 years, he helped me move. Me and my father moved to Chattanooga, where I live now, and there was a 5-hour drive. He came all the way to South Georgia to help us move just because he had a pickup truck. And I found out that my cousin had become a Christian, and he was sharing his testimony with me, and the things that he was saying made it seem real. He was just like, man, I know what you're seeing in church makes everything look fake, and you see all these hypocrites, but he's like, man, just read the Bible. He said, dude, I fasted, and I sit in a bathtub, and I just read the Bible, man. And he said, and it's like, it would change things around me. He said, there's secrets in this book, man. He said, just read the Bible. And, I mean, he was telling me things like, like miraculous things were happening when he read this Bible. So I just started in Genesis and started reading, and my mind was blown. I was like, I have never heard any of this stuff before. And so I started praying, putting God to the test. And I was praying for a job, and I would see God answer my prayers in supernatural ways. Like, every little thing that happened in my life, if it was something that I didn't want, if it was a situation that I didn't want to be in, I could trace that situation back to how he answered my prayers. And I was just like, man, God is not a magical genie where you pray a prayer and you open your eyes and there's a car materialized in front of you. No, he's going so far. He's really setting up the pieces in your life and putting you in the right place at the right time, where these things just, your prayer becomes answered through these events.
Amen.
And there's like no way you could have ever made it happen. And I think it's just further proof. It's like that where God is saying, this is me. You didn't make this happen, obviously.
Absolutely. So, I can dig it. Mikey, I don't mean to cut you off, brother, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. I hope you'll hang out with me and continue telling us your testimony. It's been great so far, brother. Thanks for listening to the Geocentric Eccentric. This is Wes Blaze, and we will be right back. We're back from the commercial break, and I'm Wes Blaze Music. This is the Geocentric Eccentric on Flat Earth Radio Live, FERlive.com. And we are back with Mikey Jenny, who was in the middle of his testimony before we had to, stick with the usual programming. So, brother, I would love it if you would go ahead and pick up where we left off.
Yeah, so that's where I was at. I started to believe in God, but I was like this party animal. And I was like, I believe in God. I pray to Him, but I'm just not ready to be a Christian yet. I got this lifestyle, man. I got this party lifestyle. And, sometimes I felt like I was overwhelmed with friends. Like I worked at Hot Topic for 4 years, and for some reason when you work there, it's kind of like you're a celebrity or something. All these people look up to you, and so my phone would be blowing up. Plus I had a clothing line and started this little rap project, and so, I was getting into clubs free. Literally, like I'd be in line, and the security guard would come grab me and say, "Why are you in line, man? You can come on in," and just walk me in.
Yeah, I remember at one point, your clothing label that you were a part of was sponsored by Soulja Boy and SOD Money Gang, right? They had some big notoriety going.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff, man. I really believe that that God was orchestrating all that stuff at the time. I was like, man, I kept running into these weird situations. Like, we went to go shoot a music video in California, and I changed my flight back home, and while I was in the little waiting area for the plane, I see at LAX, at the LAX airport in LA, I see this guy decked out in SOD Money Gang wear all over, and I'm like, "Are you with SOD Money Gang?" He smiled. He said, "I'm the CEO." And I'm like, "Dude," and I start showing him pictures of, not Soulja Boy himself, but A-Rab and Jabbar and Lil Playboy wearing my clothes, and Coco Kiss. And he's like, "What?" And he's tripping out. And I'm sitting there showing him this is my clothes. I'm like pulling out shirts out of my bag and giving them to him and stuff. And I'm showing him that we were shooting a music video and showing him scenes of it. And he's like, "Man, y'all doing it big." Dude did a promo video with me in the LAX airport, like right on the spot. And I was just like, man, God is like orchestrating all this stuff, making my dreams happen. And that's where it happened. I was at that point. Like we were going to move to California and try to make this thing happen. And that's when God said, "Look how close you are to your dream. You're getting Bud Ice sponsorships. You're getting Soulja Boy wearing your stuff and all this." And he's like, "You can make your dream happen, or, it can happen, or you can drop it all and follow me."
Oh, wow.
And, man, so that's where I was at. My testimony isn't like my whole kingdom came crumbling down, so I came crawling back to God. No, God let me see just how close I could have it, and then said, "You can surrender it all and follow me, or you can go down this road." And, I think Jesus did that a lot in the Bible. He would approach the fishermen when they had the biggest catch of the day and say, "Drop your nets and follow me." He would approach people when they're at the height of their career, and then tell them to drop it all and follow him.
That's about the third time you've given me really big chills, like deep-seated goosebumps. Because, brother, I feel like the same thing kind of happened to me, where I was at a height of success in business and financially. I was able to be, financially independent and stable, in a sense, for the first time, for any longevity, any consistent basis. And it was during that run, during the height of that, is when I decided to become baptized. And I had a conviction in my heart that I knew it was in the name of Jesus Christ, because I had faith and hope in his truth. And so what would you say, backing up a little bit, you were this party animal, you had definitely reached an understanding and a bit of a conviction that you realized there was God, there was a God, that he existed, and you started to think it was the God of the Bible based on your feelings of other people's testimonies and that experience. Because I'm a firm believer that when people share their testimony in sincerity, like you're doing now, like I've done, like Pastor Nate was just doing, you are able to kind of become a medium for the Holy Spirit to speak to other people, because that moving testimony of the reality of people's experience with Jesus Christ is that proof that so many are looking for. And what they don't get is something I covered in my first episode, is that you really do have to believe before he reveals himself. Isn't that interesting?
That, yes. He says, seek and you'll find, not try to debunk me and I'll prove myself to you.
Yeah.
You know, he's knocking on the door of your heart. He's not bashing in the door with some kind of battering ram. God is not a thief, you know. He's a gentleman. He's knocking and waiting for you to answer. He's wooing you to fall in love with him, whereas the enemy is saying, I'm going to get you no matter what I got to do. I'll make propaganda. I'll offer you all the kingdoms of the world. I'll bribe you. But Jesus isn't like that. He says, let me show you who I am and why you should fall in love with me.
Amen.
And it's just like, you know, if you're trying to win a woman, you know, you subtly do these things, give her flowers and things like that.
I was just about to say, it's never, like so many, mostly non-believers will expect, okay, prove it to me. And like you said, you know, he doesn't work like that, that you have to lovingly seek him, like you say. And so many unbelievers expect, sort of like you said earlier, him to be this genie where he magically grants some overnight magical conviction. But so going back to that, though, what I meant to ask you a moment ago, what would you say was the defining moment, kind of the last straw in specific, that even though you had already believed, you weren't ready to leave that lifestyle, which I can relate to, and then you left it, and you said you felt like he was showing you a way of either here's all the fame and glory and riches that you thought you've wanted so far, or drop it all and follow me. What was that moment that said that to you most?
You know, God was real patient with me. I was actually a Christian, a self-professed Christian, growing in a sense. I believe at that moment I was a Christian. I didn't have all the fruit, but I was learning. So at that point, like I said, I thought God was opening all the doors. But prior to that was in 2012. 2005 is when I actually accepted Christ. So I'm this party animal and not ready to become a Christian yet. But every night I had something to do. I mean, every night people were inviting me to parties, and I'm just choosing where I want to go. I'm like, man, I got all these selections. I'll pick this party. Well, one particular night, nobody had anything going on. All my friends were hanging out with a girl or something, so it was like I went home to myself, to my apartment, and I'm literally watching The Simpsons, and at that moment, I feel like I felt lonely. I felt like before I had too many friends, and sometimes I just wanted a night alone, but now that I got this night alone, all I wanted to do was hang out with somebody. And I felt God saying, why don't you pray? I mean, this is like before I accepted Christ. This was when I just was believing but not ready to become a Christian yet. I felt like God was saying, why don't you pray? So I hit mute on the TV, and I bowed my head, and I said, well, I don't know what I'm praying about, but I just thought about any friend that I could think of to pray for. And while I was in that prayer, it was like God said, this is your moment. And I opened my eyes. I was like, I'm not ready for that. I think that was just like some random thought that crossed my mind. That wasn't really God speaking to me. And then it was like this eye-opening revelation. Like when I thought that thought, it was like getting smacked over the head. And it was like, you are rejecting God now. You feel like God is saying to pray and that this is your moment, and you're saying no. And I was just like, there's this moment of realization, like, okay, I can believe in the Bible. I can believe that God is answering my prayers. Why can't I believe that he's saving my life right now? And it's funny because my mom, when she got saved, she had it was this verse that just totally made sense, unlocked something spiritually in her, and it was believe in all things possible. She didn't know how to believe in her heart. Everything was in her head. But when she heard that verse, it was like, she said, I can believe. And I remember buying her a magnet when I was a kid that said that verse. And so right then when I said, why can't I believe that God's saving my life right now? God just showed me little visions, little personal things that meant something to me. And I saw my mom telling her testimony, believing all things are possible. I saw that magnet I gave her as a kid. And then I even used to play this video game called Parappa the Rapper.
Yeah.
And he used to spin around and say, I can believe. And God showed me that. Dude, I was like, God is so cool and personal. Like, these things don't mean anything to God. That game is nothing, but he knew it was like for me. And he's just giving me a little taste. Like, I'm the reason you think things are cool, you know? Yeah. I'm the one that created you. And at that moment, I just gave him to God. I invited him to my heart right then, alone in my house, in my apartment. There was no emotional sermon going on. There was nobody saying, say these words after me. It was just me and God. And that night, I was like totally in the presence of him in a way that still to this day I've never felt. Like, that was just a crazy experience. And beyond any high weed could have ever given me. It wasn't some trip, you know. And I even had this little experience as I was walking back to my room. My cousin was actually living with me, and I didn't want to wake her up because she had school the next day, but we were both sharing my room, and she had a bed on the floor, and I had a bed on the floor on the other side. I was trying to sneak in and be quiet, and something in my mind was just, you know, there's this battle of doubt and fear, or doubt and faith. And as I was walking in there, I was just this little wave of doubt, like, what if all this is fake? And right when that thought hit me, I mean, I'm talking a walk from my doorway to the bed, my body started trembling, my legs started quaking so much that picture frames on the wall were rattling. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to wake up my cousin. And I was like, I gave back into this faith, and instantly, like instantaneously, the tremor stopped. And I took another step, same thing. And then like I'd go, it was like this battle of fear or doubt and faith. And it was just like this, like a war on my soul right then. And I finally make it to my bed, and I felt like I was just being smothered in this love feeling, and that was the beginning of my story. But like I said, it was a long growth, because that was 2005, and then 2012, I'm thinking God's opened all these doors with beer sponsorships and, you know, secular rap artists wearing my clothes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Brother, it's mind-blowing. I really appreciate you sharing it. You know your story well, and you love the roots that you come from, because it really is a powerful testimony of how far somebody can grow. And even though you say it was a long, grueling battle, like you kind of explained it as, we know God is patient. And it's an amazing thing that we have the story of the prodigal son to refer back to. I've often felt like it related, like I could relate to that story, because it just goes to show no matter how far we stray and how far we go, he's there with open arms, waiting to come, you know, waiting for us to come back to him. And so you're another example of that, as am I, and it's a beautiful thing, because, you know, it's the glory really is in the complete 180, in the amazingness of the strides that we go through from one extreme to another. And that's how he works, you know. Like, there's a lot of people that have always played by the rules and have always lived it straight, but there's really something powerful to be said that speaks to others when somebody that was down a desperately dark, terrible path, like we can, you know, relate to for the most part, that then was able to turn it around and give all glory to God and watch nothing short of miracles happen in their lives and around them. And so I want to lead that into a topic of discussion that I was curious about your thoughts of. So in the community that we're involved in frequently and often on a day-to-day basis in Facebook, social media, we got a nice community of truthers, of flat earthers, of Bible believers, and of, the body of Christ can be represented on Facebook there. So we have a lot of contradicting opinions, as of course is going to happen when you get a collection of people like that in public forum. But I would say there's an alarming dispute going on, in particular about the name of our Savior, the Messiah, the Christ, and whether his name was or wasn't this or that, and what it is and isn't, and this or that. And so it can be kind of frustrating. And I myself struggled back and forth on my opinion about it. So the debate is this, right? We have what we know and have always heard for all of our lives, the name of Jesus Christ. Can I get an amen? Right? So we have always felt nothing short of what I can only explain is like a divine presence being associated with that name. Agreed. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll lead with this, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts. That, yes, I have discovered in my studies that he spoke Aramaic. He was of Hebrew, Semitic origin, Middle Eastern descent. And at that time, there was no letter J. I agree. There was no J sound, I don't think. No. From what I've found, he did bear a name that the people called him, that he may have called himself. And what I've also found is that I don't think any one of us can 100% say we know the true pronunciation of. So whether you call him Yahusha, Yehoshua, there's 100 different pronunciations that a lot of them sound so similar. Just change one letter here and there, throw it around, mix it around. But we know who you're talking about, don't we? But then there's even an informal pronunciation of Yeshua, which I am fond of. But then what I also recognize is that he came first for the Jews and then for the Gentiles. And then the original Gentiles, from everything I can tell, were the Greek, which the New Testament is written in. So it would make sense that in the Greek tongue, there was made for him a new name. And then not only that, both names were then translated, and not only that, transliterated to become the names that we call him today. And then depending on who you ask and where you ask them, you're going to get a different pronunciation, a different sound, a different noise and utterance that our vocal cords can make. But it all comes down to this, who we're calling upon in spirit. And that's what that means to me. So I'm very curious what your thoughts are. Do you feel like there's divine power in the name of Jesus Christ?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do.
I do too.
I thought, you know what? I think Jesus is multilingual. And I think Satan is multilingual as well. And I know that when I say the name of Jesus in a spiritual warfare prayer, it makes Satan and his demons flee instantly. I never experienced spiritual warfare until I fully surrendered, and that was in New Year's 2013. Like I said, I was still living kind of worldly, doing rap shows and, still doing worldly things that I shouldn't have been doing. And, Satan never messed with me. I was in his camp, so there wasn't really any need. But after I surrendered everything, I started to experience things I never experienced, like waking up at 3 in the morning, terrified to open my eyes. Like, I'm awake, but I haven't opened my eyes yet, and I feel like there are demons looking at me, and I don't want to open my eyes and see that. So I just start praying spiritual warfare, and I'm praying the prayer, and the moment I say the name of Jesus, it's like this peace comes over me, and that blackness disappears instantly. So I do believe in the power of the name of Jesus. My name on my birth certificate is Michael, but if I go to France, I'm going to be called Michelle. My friends know me as Mikey. Many names. People call me Mickey, and I don't correct them because I just feel awkward. Jesus was called many things in the Bible. He's the Prince of Peace, the Lamb.
He has 1,000 names, does he not?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think he knows when we're talking to him, as long as we're not calling him Buddha or Allah or something like that, I think we're safe.
Names that are, more or less evident, attributed to those ABCs, anything but Christian, which we know Satan comes in many counterfeits. Many counterfeits. After all, one of his 5 I wills was that he wanted to be worshipped like the Most High. So it's no doubt and understandable that he created so many counterfeits and false doctrines and false images of Christ, especially when he took advantage of the results of the Tower of Babel and how the prophecy of the virgin birth and the Messiah was, out there for people to know about and hear of. For how long would you say? Have you looked at the timeline of how long the prophecy had been around and existing before the time of Christ's birth?
Well, I know that Eve knew that there was going to be a Savior to save them, and she thought it was going to come from her bloodline.
Oh, wow.
She probably thought that Cain, her firstborn, was going to be the Messiah, or could be. I think God has given this prophecy verbally, man to man. But yeah, I haven't really studied real deep into that.
No. Yeah, it's interesting.
But what you're talking about is like the Zeitgeist films and stuff are saying that Christ is really just all these pagan deities, but Satan knows the Bible better than any of us.
Oh, tell me about it.
Counterfeit it.
I know, right? So that's an interesting point you bring up, Zeitgeist. I don't know too many others that really can say that they watched that and that it was anything meaningful for them, but it was for me at the time. I'll say I was, what was that? Freshman year, probably for me, maybe even a little earlier, when I first caught wind of the Zeitgeist film. And that was, I'll have to say, I can admit, that was my intro into conspiracy of any kind and researching truths that went, against what we had been told. And so,
were you a believer at the time?
So yeah, that's something I covered in my last show, is that I was raised a believer, but even before and around that time, me and my mother both often had kind of, not necessarily debates, but just conversations where we brought up a lot of points that from everything that we knew at the time and had been told and whatnot, and that we struggled reconciling our belief in creation with what we're told from mainstream modern science. And so being a believer and also having gone through at that point already, 8-9 years of indoctrination and conditioning and spiritual crushing that is the heliocentric model and just modern mainstream society, okay? So after having gone through all of that, of course, at this point in my life, it was a very vulnerable time. So, of course, Satan sends Zeitgeist. And so the whole first third of that movie, I didn't know what to think because I was just blown away. They made so many very interesting points that, because I didn't know the scriptures, I was quite frankly deceived by at the time. Whereas the whole deal about 9/11 was awesome. That was great. If they would have just made it about that and the third part with the financial system, that would have been great. But they had to go in and promote this Antichrist agenda, and I hate them for it. But it was a test that I am thankful and grateful that I've been able to overcome and see how much is actually debunked about that, just blatant lies were used to support, that Antichrist agenda. And I don't get down with it anymore, and I hate to see, but so many others are deceived by that way of thinking. So do you remember seeing that too?
Yeah, I was going to say, I still think 2/3 of that movie are really good. It seemed like it was kind of like in 3 parts, and once they got into the Christianity thing, that's where I disagree. But yeah, they made some really good points. That's cool you said that was like your first introduction to conspiracy theories. Right. I remember my dad was in the military for 8.5 years, and I remember in high school looking over his shoulder what he was looking at on the internet, and he was looking at gas masks. I actually had some kind of a gas mask fetish, is kind of the wrong word, but I like gas masks. The first tattoo I ever got was on the back of my neck of a gas mask.
Yeah.
And I owned gas masks, but when I seen him looking at them online, I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, oh, just looking, I just thought about getting this, just in case maybe something happens, we go to war or something. I just busted out laughing. I'm like, whoa, what are you talking about? like, I was so brainwashed, I didn't even think we could go to war. But so I kind of knew my dad was having these things going on, but then one day he was like, just watch this movie with me and tell me what you think. And we sat down and watched Loose Change. My dad presented Loose Change to me probably in, I don't even know what year that was. But
That's too cool. Like 2008, 9, yeah, somewhere in there.
And I was just like, I believe it. I believe everything it says, but I did not know how deep further. I didn't know how it affected me and everybody. I just thought this is something greedy, corrupt people did in New York City. But now I see how it affects all of us.
So, looking back, knowing what I know now, it's funny to me and kind of strange how popularized things like that were, in particular Zeitgeist and Loose Change. Do you remember it being kind of a big deal that a lot of people knew about them at the time and do still, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, you've heard of how one of the rules that the elite like to work under, I don't know if it's something that they're ordained to have to adhere to or if it's something that they do of their own volition, but I call it, and a lot of other people call it, revelation of the method. Something that they do whereas they have no problem putting the truth in plain sight, and they understand the topic of putting, the best place to hide a secret is right under somebody's nose, and furthermore, it can cause a division tactic for them when they're able to present the truth on one channel and one medium and then turn around and have this lie going on the whole time, so that the people that are smart enough and the people that actually believe in this other source, this independent source, seemingly, they kind of start to question things and believe differently, and now they got this fight going on. It seems like it would be a divisive technique, but furthermore, also one of their ways of just putting the truth just right out there, like they do with Flat Earth in so many movies, like they do with other truths. And so doesn't that seem like it could be that Zeitgeist was not only a inside job like 9/11, which they didn't have any problem letting the truth of 9/11 become popularized eventually, and then but along with that they could tie in this Antichrist agenda that could hit so many at a crucial time. Doesn't it make sense that that's something they could do or would do?
Yeah, that's kind of a new thought for me, but I really when I started to wake up to this conspiracy world, I loved Alex Jones, man, and I might ruffle a few feathers here, but here lately, I'm starting to wonder if he's a double agent.
Brother.
Go
ahead.
He puts a lot of truth out there, man, a whole bunch, but there's a lot that he doesn't say and a lot that he kind of refrains from saying, so it kind of makes me wonder.
Here's the deal breaker, Mikey. Here's the deal breaker. He's on mainstream television, right? He's on cable networks. True, yeah. Okay, so my firm belief now to these days at least, and it's virtually true, meaning I do believe there are some exceptions, but I used to not think this way. I was like, oh, of course there's going to be the good guys and the bad guys, but now I think that if they are on the silver screen, the TV screen, if they're on the radio waves, if they are publicized in mass-produced media and popularized as celebrities, then they are a puppet controlled by the elitist cabal that we're all against. And so, I think there are maybe some exceptions. I can't name them and wouldn't name names for fear of being wrong. But what I can say is that, brother, I have a video for you to check out. I'm a fan of ODD TV. Matt Prosella does some great work. I'm sure you've seen quite a bit of his work, videos, music videos, right? So there's one that that covers probably about 25-30 minutes straight of nothing but the utmost compelling evidence that Alex Jones is the artist formerly known as Bill Hicks. Have you heard this?
Bill Hicks, yeah.
You've heard that?
Yeah, dude, one of the funniest memes I saw whenever he got shut down, it's like a comic strip. Somebody did it really well, but it shows Alex Jones, like they're saying, hey, they shut down our account, and he's like, oh, let me break into my old account on
Bill Hicks.
MySpace or Facebook. I'm logging into Bill Hicks's account.
Exactly. Yes. So did you get it at that time when you saw that meme? Had you heard already about that conspiracy?
been looking into that. One thing I think is the elite will never shut down the truth completely because they want the truth coming from sources that look
They can
like
control.
ridiculous things.
Yeah, that too.
Like the tabloids and things. They want the truth in those kind of sources so that the truth will be laughed at.
For sure.
And so Alex Jones, hot-headed, and you've seen the music videos they make out of him saying the most ridiculous things.
Because he really says those things.
Yeah, they want the truth coming from that source.
Yes, and sources that they can control. And so that's the key point in all of that, is that controlled opposition. We have to realize that it's all a stage. It's all just a play that they're playing out. It's one big club and we're not in it, right? So they are really literally putting on a script that they hire actors to play the parts of. And I kid you not, it's disturbing that they have the majority of the masses duped on several occasions, and not all of which I'm completely convinced of, but there are more than one accounts of the case being that Hollywood and the elite use the same character played by multiple people, and then sometimes the same people play multiple characters. So I'm a firm believer, tell me if you've looked into this at all, that the current Eminem, right, Slim Shady, Marshall Mathers, the one that we hear on the radio and see in the music videos and see publicized, popularized today, I'm convinced that he's not the same dude. What have you looked into about that?
Yeah, dude, I am on that with you. Actually, my boss, he worked in Hollywood, and he actually met Eminem one time, and every once in a while I take him down the rabbit hole a little further, and I show him something like that, and at first I was just telling him, I was like, you ever heard of clones and this and that? He's like, I don't know about all that. And I said, look at this video of Eminem, dude, and as soon as he came on the screen, his eyes got wide and his mouth open, he goes, that's not him. He's like, I met him. He's like, that ain't him.
Okay, tell me about it. So I'm saying, okay, there's undeniable evidence that literally, I'm telling you, Alex Jones, same thing. Alex Jones literally admits on more than one occasion, and he kind of winks it off, shrugs it off as if he's joking, smiles, shrugs, right? But more or less outright says it, that he was Bill Hicks. And so if you watch this video, I'll have to send you the link where it's ODD covering that. He talks about he just shows all the evidence that ODD is great and just flawless at delivering that kind of message. So you got to see it, because not even halfway through it, I was like, oh, no doubt, duh, that is the same guy. What's going on here? Yeah. So I'll just say, I'll throw out on a limb. I'm not sure of it, but I think it's very possible that Morgan Freeman is Jimi Hendrix. Was Jimi Hendrix?
I've been seeing that.
You saw that? That was me, more than likely. If you saw a meme about it, I was the one spreading that. And then, so like I say, and I even think I post in that post where I share it, I'm like, so what do y'all think? Is what I'm sharing. And there's interesting pictures to go along with it. Furthermore, you got, we said Eminem, Morgan Freeman is Jimi Hendrix. Oh, JFK. There's a dozen conspiracies surrounding the assassination, quote unquote, of JFK. And so I was, we thought it was an inside job. We thought it was the CIA was hired because they were really against him and he was really against them. And what I think these days is more likely, because if we look, there are more than one videos of the assassination with JFK. Have you seen this, where there's one with like a 4-seater car, and there's another one with a 6-seater car?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Okay, so there's multiple different, video accounts of this occurrence. So there's something fishy off the top. It was a publicist, just anytime the government does anything with any of their puppets, you gotta, nowadays, I think everybody's starting to wake up to, you gotta question all of it. Like, is any of it even real? So in the sense that I think it could have been kind of a staged ploy of whatnot, I think it's very possible that JFK himself was not actually killed, if anybody was killed, and then that he could have became Jimmy Carter. If you search, there's, as much as YouTube censors, there's a lot of stuff on there that I just know that they think nobody's gonna believe this, but who knows how much truth there is to it, right? So there, if you search JFK is Jimmy Carter, there's some weird stuff there that when you do the overlays of the face, just all the facial features seem to line up. But there's that, and then
we knew the truth of everything, our minds would just melt. I think
it's crazy.
You know, I wear a thick foil hat, but the Mandela effect is one that I'm highly skeptical of.
Me too. Yeah, I used to be on it.
People are just false memories and stuff, but like you said about the car, they could be pushing this Mandela effect to be like, oh no, it wasn't a cover-up. It's a Mandela effect.
Exactly. See, controlled opposition. Oh, did you see? So it was since the emergence of this Mandela theory stuff, right? Mandela effect stuff. They erected a statue of Mandela, Nelson Mandela. I forget where it was, but it was a giant statue. In his ear, there was a rabbit. Like it was all a bronze statue, and they put a rabbit in his ear. But what's interesting is that the people like freaked out. It was like at a college or something. They weren't happy about it, and they demanded that it be removed, and they did.
No way.
Yeah. So isn't that another little interesting thing? It's just, I think you're right that the Mandela effect is largely just misunderstandings. Just like, so the one thing that really got me about the Mandela effect was that I was an avid reader from the ages of, who knows what, like 5 when I started to read till 8, 10 years old, too old to be reading them. The Berenstein Bears, right? Berenstein, spell Stein, like a regular name that we're used to. And then now it is truly Berenstain. And if everywhere you look, the majority of what you'll find spells it Stain, Berenstain. And it's all of it's wrong. No, that's not right. That's how I feel about it. It was not like that. I remember it. I saw it in my head. I had them in my hand. But come to find out, there is evidence suggesting that there was a change in ownership, and in order to do the legalities of it, it was best that they change the name by one letter. And that's how it works sometimes in legalities in courts.
I'm a very visual person, so the two that still kind of bother me is, and I've never been into Star Wars, but I've seen enough of it to to brand my brain with it. And like I said, I'm a visual person. I don't ever remember that silver leg on C-3PO, dude. And the Monopoly Man not having a monocle. I mean, in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, when they pretended to be the Monopoly Man, he had a monocle. If you look at any kind of costume, Halloween costume, dude's got a monocle.
See, so I'd be curious. I'd be curious, who is it that's saying that he never had a monocle? Is that really the case, or is it that he just did at one point and they redesigned the character and now he doesn't? Well,
you can look at every official Monopoly game card or whatever, and he doesn't have a monocle.
Stuff that, that's what I find interesting, is there are a couple occurrences that it's difficult to explain how, if you look back, things that existed before it changed, if it did change, then now all of a sudden things that are, that should display it one way are showing it a different way. And I think that is... It's weird. It's interesting, and it's another one of those things. Is it a controlled opposition? Is this the elitists playing a trick on us? Because that's what they love to do, just lie and play tricks.
You kind of got my brain thinking now about that JFK car, because I keep seeing it in these Mandela things. But when you look at the photographs of Tupac's car, and like when he got killed, supposedly. Just look into that, man. Like, the photographs that they released, the car looks completely different. Like, the shape, the angle it's taken at, I can't remember the precise details, but when you see the photographs side by side, you're like, this isn't the same car, the same event, nothing.
Yes, brother. So another one.
Well be what's going on with the JFK thing, because I never even thought about it being fake. I just thought he was trying to spread the truth, and they capped him for it.
That's right. So that reminds me of one other one, the Beatles. Were you ever a fan of the Beatles?
A little bit before my time. I was more into black metal.
Right. But there's a conspiracy surrounding, was it Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
He died, and then he was replaced, and they kept it quiet that the original one died. And then the one that replaced him was 4 inches taller and was right-handed, could not play left-handed bass. And so in order, they tried to tour and they just couldn't pass it off because he couldn't learn left-handed bass. And the Beatles stopped touring, and that was the reason why, was because they couldn't continue the charade that they had replaced the guy. And so it was just, they plastered it all over in their album covers, and they just kind of leaked the truth there in symbols. Like in one of them, there was very much looked like a funeral on one of their album covers. I wish I knew the name of it, but they had the flowers out in front.
Man.
Huh?
Sgt. Pepper and the Lonely Heart Man, I think.
That might have been it, but yeah, and Aleister Crowley was in the background. That's the one. It said in the flowers, his name, and it had a left-handed guitar in there too, which was just oddly reminiscent of, a funeral for the guy in the band. And so that's just another example where that's how they play. That's how they do in their staged. And I think it goes all the way back to even William Shakespeare. Have you heard that whether or not he was even a real person, the majority of the plays and writings that were attributed to William Shakespeare were not even him? It was people working under that pseudonym?
That is completely new to me.
Yeah, dude. So it just goes all the way back. You know what I mean? That's what they do. That's how they put on their charades, and they love keeping us in the dark and mixing information up. So you're onto something when you're saying that you think Alex Jones is a controlled opposition shill. Now, I'm not one to point fingers in the truther community and say this guy's a shill, that guy's a shill. I don't have evidence, but if they are on the mainstream, they're being paid to read a script, as far as I'm concerned. That goes for the presidents and the politicians as well, I feel like. Don't you?
I'll tell you the one thing that kind of got me questioning Alex Jones was he completely went off on a dude and was cussing him out about the no planes. He's like, the no planers are just completely crazy. They've just lost it. And to think that he wouldn't even go down that.
No planes?
No planes?
You're talking about 9/11?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when you look up no planes, if you actually investigate it instead of just blowing it off, I mean, there's so much evidence that.
I don't believe there were planes either.
So when he, that's what I'm saying. He puts out some truth, but when it goes a little too far, he starts pulling back the reins, and that makes me question.
For sure. Yeah, so controlled opposition is a real thing. So that being said, we can segue that into what a diet, or what some are calling a lifestyle, has started to become popularized in this same mainstream media, agenda that we're talking about and trying to expose. So when it's said that we see an overwhelming amount of evidence that the human body, that we are not supposed to, or it's not beneficial to us to consume near as much meat as we do or have been accustomed to. At the very least, not near as much, right? So there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that it would be much healthier if we cut out at least 90% of the amount of meat that we intake, because that's how often we eat meat and how much we shouldn't. According to my opinion. Now, to be honest and upfront, most days I'm vegetarian, right? Most days. So there's times when I do partake. Now, when I do eat meat, I'll be honest and also say I prefer to eat clean. I think there is evidence suggesting that the animals and the meat that was expressed to us that it wasn't made clean for us, I feel like there's evidence suggesting that it's not clean for us, not good for us, and that there's negative effects that can come from eating them. So when I do eat meat, from time to time, it's clean, but most days I'm vegetarian, and I feel like it's becoming kind of a popularized agenda to push vegetarianism and mostly veganism in the mainstream. Have you noticed this too?
I have, but I think you can't stop the world from waking up that our food is being poisoned. Even the mainstream media has come out and say that. I know that MSNBC, and which is weird, I took a screenshot of that when I seen it come up on MSNBC, but now I can't find it anymore.
But PETA's been saying for a long time that they put cancer-causing arsenic in the chicken, and then MSNBC actually comes out and says the FDA now admits 70% of the U.S. chicken contains cancer-causing arsenic. Mainstream media, like, I don't believe everything the mainstream media says, but when they come out with things like that, it makes you question. And then, there was the whole thing about ammonia meat filler, and I saw this with my own eyes. I took pictures of it at Walmart. I'm like you, I don't eat meat, but occasionally I think, yeah, I'll try to eat some fish or something just to change it up. So I was looking at this fish fillet. One was gray, one was pink. Same brand, same type of fish. So I'm like, okay, so I flip it over. The pink one says whatever the type of fish was, and then it says, and carbon monoxide for pink coloring. Then I look at the other one, and it just says the name of the fish. I'm like, carbon monoxide? This is a poison, and they're going to do it just so it's pretty pink instead of gray. I mean, that's facts. That's not conspiracy theory. I mean, you can look at the ingredients.
It's printed there on it, right, yeah.
So I do believe that there's an awakening when it comes to our health.
Definitely.
That's why I became a vegetarian in 2013, New Year's 2013, but since then, I've seen that we weren't created to be eaters. I mean, God created Adam and Eve in a perfect world where there was no death. If there's no death, how can you eat animals? You might have some, extremists that'll say, oh, well, if you eat fruit, you're killing something that's alive, but I'm talking about something that breathes, has the spirit, ruah, pneuma in it. There was no death in the Garden of Eden, so to think that Adam was running around chasing down hogs and listening to them squeal as he killed them, and the blood poured out and he consumes their flesh.
Right.
That's not biblical. And then, when Christ comes to restore the earth, a lot of, we forget that we're going to live on earth for eternity. A lot of people think about heaven, but God's going to come and restore the earth. And Isaiah talks about how the lion will eat grass like the ox. Even the lion is going to be a vegetarian. So it's going to be back to a world where there's no death, and we're just going to all be vegetarians eating plants.
So you mean to tell me that, right, you mean to tell me that in the beginning of time, it's stated that God didn't even give instructions on what meat was okay to consume, and he didn't even really condone eating meat until after the flood, just about, right?
Yeah, he said, every green herb bearing seed, that it be for meat for you.
He did.
A lot of people think that this whole clean and unclean thing is some kind of Torah terrorist Mosaic law, and you got me under the law and all this. No, this goes way before Moses. This is Noah's day when God was lining up the animals to the ark. He told Noah to take 2 of every unclean beast and 7 of every clean beast. Now, why would he take 7 of every clean beast? Well, when you're on a boat for 40 days and 40 nights and you're going to land on a flooded world with a bunch of dead vegetation, what are you going to eat? What are you going to offer the sacrifice? So God did make provision to sustain a family on a world that had no vegetation anymore. And
in a world, and in a world where Christ hadn't died to atone for sin yet, where they still had to perform sacrifices because the blood was, the atonement.
Exactly. So, God made this world so perfect that if one type of species dies out, it can affect our world in drastic measures. So to try and justify eating a swine that eats its own feces and all, and buzzards or whatever, they eat rotting corpses, bottom feeders in the bottom of the ocean. God made these things to clean up. These are the garbage men of the earth. They're the garbage disposals. And if they didn't exist, there would just be rotting corpses all over the world, and disease would be blowing in the wind.
I never thought of it like that. Wow. See, I'll be honest and say that I've entertained thoughts that the fallen angels had something to do with breeding the abominations that are called the unclean meat, and that these weren't originally God's creations. It's like as if, why would he create them and tell us we have dominion over all of them, but then say some are clean and unclean? after the fact, if he created all of it and all of it was good, apparently. That's how I kind of rationalize the idea that these were evil creations, not of God. But you put it in a different way to look at it, a different perspective. I'd never heard of it like that.
Well, think about maybe they, I don't know, I do believe that they serve a purpose, but maybe they didn't have a purpose before the fall. I mean, if there was no death, then what would a vulture eat? Maybe he'd just eat leaves, I do believe that after the fall, it changed our entire world. So there's atheists who say, why would God create a mosquito or a parasite and things like this? And that actually, I think, had an effect on Darwin and made him become an atheist. But I don't believe that these things were created to be what they are today. That only a female mosquito drinks your blood.
Really?
The male mosquitoes, they eat nectar or whatever, but the female mosquito, when she's pregnant and things like this, she can't get enough nourishment from maybe some extinct plant that doesn't exist anymore, so she has to go and drink our blood. All this is because of death and because of the sin of the world and the curse that we live under now. In a perfect world, mosquitoes will eat nectar or whatever, but now we have things like parasites, and all of this is because of the fall. Even a rose having a thorn, when you look at how it's created, it's actually a branch that's trying to come out, but it's twisted super tightly into a thorn. But I bet in the new earth, they will not have a thorn on them.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's an interesting way to put that, too. I like it.
I recommend looking up Walter Veith, V-E-I-T-H. You'll know him. He has like a German accent. This guy has a wealth of knowledge, hours and hours and hours. He was an evolution professor in Germany, I think, but he had to leave his job because he was an evolution professor atheist who became a Christian, and he couldn't continue lying to students, so he wanted to teach the truth, and so he had to lose his job. But he has all these sermons about creation, and dude is just very intelligent, and I learned a lot of that type of stuff about the fall, how it affected creation through him. So Walter Veith is a good guy to look up.
Very good. Well, so bringing all that back to what we were talking about earlier with different figures in the media and different celebrities and politicians, very clearly being actors and just, reading off their scripts, playing their parts. So with the emergence of certain celebrities, to name a few, I was watching an episode of Saturday Night Live. It was actually the New Year's Eve, quote-unquote, episode of Saturday Night Live when Miley Cyrus was on there, right? Hannah Montana, Disney's, product. She was on there. She mentioned that she was a vegan at least twice on that episode. And then they continued to talk about it even after she was off camera, how she's a vegan and, just kind of drilling that into people's heads. And then even more recently, I noticed Beyonce and Jay-Z are combining their efforts with some cook who's, trying to be famous, writing a book, and they're putting in there how they're supporting a vegan lifestyle and how they've changed their lifestyle to fit with that. And so it's alarming when we know that these people are puppets for an agenda that, if we look at their music videos and we look at the message they support, it's very anti-Christ. It's very satanic. And a lot of the symbolism that they use is very revealing of that, right? So to imagine that they are now pushing veganism, something that we know from experience, from experiment, and from evidence that cutting meat out and living a meatless lifestyle and having a meatless diet is beneficial. It's scary now to imagine
7 to 10 years extra on your life.
It can, yeah. It's recorded too. Like I've personally seen testimonies, countless testimonies of people that have, a story that shows how going meatless really benefited them. And I can say that when I started cutting meat out and ate a lot less meat, my skin cleared up a lot more. I lost a lot of the excess weight. I wanted to eat less, and I had what I felt like was more energy more often with eating less. And then on top of that, there's so much more just depth, I feel like, to the palette that exists within the 80,000 edible plant varieties that exist on the face of this earth, whereas we've been so conditioned and programmed to eat the same 3 living sentient beings every day for almost every meal. So it's just, but what I'm getting at is that it's scary now to see that these elitists who use their puppets and their actors to push agendas that further their evil agenda are now, promoting and condoning veganism and pushing that. What does that mean for the future of what's available on the market for the average vegan or vegetarian? And so when we know what they've done to so many other foods, it now provides them a foot in the door, I think, for them to be able to poison and control what gets on the shelves for vegan and vegetarian options. And that's a concerning aspect, I think.
Yeah, this whole time you've been saying this, I've been just sitting here trying to think, what could the agenda be? Also, Taco Bell is now to release a vegan menu. And, the one thing that I think this direction could go, because you think these sellouts would be, Jay-Z eating a McDonald's burger or something for $1, but the one thing that this direction could be going is the whole New World Order, where animals have more rights than you type thing, where these are no people zones on the map, and this whole, what they call the green dragon, this whole green movement, it's good in theory, and it's good if it wasn't controlled by wicked people to go green. I mean, if we truly cared about going green, we wouldn't have, we'd be having Tesla technology right now. The technology exists if you have a lightning ball at your house, or if you've ever been to a museum and you see, one of these scientist guys make your hair stand up. Like, the technology exists, but we use it for this little petty entertainment instead of powering entire cities. So they don't really care about that, because that would take away their money from the oil companies and all of this. But when they put the idols out there, they know that the sheep will follow what the idols do. So if the idols are saying go vegan, the next step will be animals have as much rights as we do, which I do not believe. I'm an animal lover.
Of course.
Well, that's kind of what they've been pushing with Marxism and Darwinism, that we are on the same level as animals. Like, if a beast is our ancestor, then we are no much more or less. And that was a big root, like a platform that they had to build upon for racism, to be able to say that one form of man or species of man was lesser evolved than another. And so, yeah, I can see how that fits together. I'll just point out, though, that I'm under the impression we've been in the New World Order for quite some time. I think it was announced on the back of the dollar bill with Novus Ordo Seclorum, right? New Order of the Ages. Whereas the One World Order is what is coming to a city near us, or city near you, right? Whereas it's going to be, the reign of the Antichrist is what is projected to happen next in biblical prophecy, from what I can see. So just to kind of touch base, there you go. So just to kind of touch base on that, we don't have a lot of time left, Mikey, but I do want to cover more of everything you've covered. I'll recommend to the listeners, Mikey has done some fantastic, just mind-boggling work on decoding the prophecy of Revelation when it refers to the beasts of Revelation, specifically the first one in one of my favorite videos of his, and then the mark of the beast and what that means. And so, Mikey, I'd like to devote, really honestly, a whole other show to covering that in the depth of it and the breadth of all of it. But if you could give kind of, I know we get compelled most days, it feels like lately, to just want to warn people. Can't you agree? Yeah, so you just feel this onsetting, especially people we know and love or have been around. We just can't help but be overwhelmed with an overwhelming sense of wanting to warn them and tell them of the truth that we've uncovered, and the truth of the Word of God, no less. And so when you look and see what we can determine about who the beast is of the first beast of Revelation, and then what they come with and all that comes with them in it. And so just in your own words, real briefly, what would you want to say to the people that are concerned about wanting to understand prophecy and what is to come?
Well, watch my video.
Yeah, right.
Shameless promotion right there. You know, I think that we need to stick with the Bible and not listen to what comes from behind the pulpits. I mean, we are in the last days. Jesus said there will be many false prophets. The way to destruction is broad, and that one day people are going to be saying, Lord, Lord, didn't we do all these great things in your name? These are Christians, self-professed Christians saying,
and what will he say?
In your name.
Right.
Going to say, depart from me, I never knew you.
Ooh. Say it again. Scariest words in existence, I feel like. Scariest words ever. What does he say?
He says, depart from me, I never knew you. Workers of lawlessness. You know, there's so many doctrines that just have people confused. You know, the doctrine that once saved, always saved. Yet, you know, so they say you say this magic prayer when you're 9 years old. It doesn't matter how you live your lifestyle. If you have a relationship with Jesus, nothing can prevent you from going to heaven because you said these magic words. That's not biblical.
No.
This is a walk. It's a relationship. Just because I have a piece of paper between me and my wife that says we're married, if I pick up tomorrow and fly to Canada and I go live there for the rest of my life, is that really a relationship? Can I honestly say I'm married to my wife? Well, I got the paperwork to prove it, but if you ask her, she's not going to say she's a husband.
Amen.
And I wouldn't, I wouldn't think that she was wrong for moving on. We're supposed to be in a relationship. That's what salvation is all about. If you look at the parable about the 10 virgins, these are all virgins, so they're all representing the church or Christians. They all have oil, which represents the Holy Spirit, but there was 5 foolish virgins that fell asleep, and then they ran out of oil, and they were saying, hey, can we have some of your oil? And the wise virgin said, if we give you some of ours, we won't be able to make it. So this is a parable of saying that there will be Christians, Holy Spirit-filled Christians, who are going to fall asleep, and they're not going to make it because they fell asleep. They weren't woke.
Powerful. There you go. They weren't woke. Real talk. Man, that's deep. And so, man, that brings some confusion, and I can see the confusion in the majority of the community that are kind of bickering back and forth. Me and Pastor Nate talked about this briefly, but and it's funny, it's interesting because I asked him, without any preface, I asked him what topics of discussion did he feel were prevalent that was affecting the community in this social network, you know, the Facebook truther community and Bible believers. We have this emergence of a movement that's kind of labeling anybody that follows anything from the Torah, which we know is just the first 5 books of the Bible, as what they're labeling a Torah terrorist. And so I made the point, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that it's dangerous territory to be labeling anybody that's a believer or adhering to any words of the Torah, which is just the first 5 books of the Bible, as a Torah terrorist, because it's just, and we don't have to mention any names. I know we care about and love some of the people that are speaking out like this, and we want to get to the bottom of it too, don't we? But I feel like the word is very clear, and we should let scriptures interpret scriptures. So I'll lead with this, and I want to hear your ending thoughts about it, Mikey. But I know that even though, so we're saved by the grace of God. Without his grace, of course, we would not be saved. If he did not give us that option, we wouldn't have it, right? So there's that. Yes. So that being said, we don't follow his commandments to get saved necessarily, because we know without his grace we wouldn't be saved at all. But we follow the commandments and we obey because we are saved and because we love him, and that's what he asked us to do. And so, but the kind of an opposing thought, trying to understand it all, trying to grasp it, I can see where people try to make sense of it all, because if you are to consistently do the opposite of the commandments, then you fall from grace, do you not?
Yes.
Thank you.
We must have balance as believers. I'm an extremist. I mean, I went as far antichrist as I could. I was gothic. I wore pantyhose, lipstick, makeup, all this. I was like total extreme. And so I've always kind of been this extremist person, but I must make myself find balance. Last show that I heard you did, you read James, and James just nailed it. He talks about how we must have faith and works. He says, without faith, or without works, faith is dead. And he says that I will show you my faith through my works. When we become a Christian, it's transforming. It renews our minds. We are a new creation. We desire God's desires. He changes our desires. So if you are a Christian and you're saying, I don't like God's 10 Commandments, I don't have to keep those, then you have to question, are you truly a believer? Have you been renewed? And it's hard to say these words because people will take it the wrong way, but I see nothing wrong with any of them. I am glad that we aren't supposed to murder or commit adultery or have other gods or any of them. They're not grievous to me, like the scripture says.
Exactly. They're a delight to keep, honestly. It's good.
If you believe that Jesus is God Almighty, He wrote those commandments with His finger in stone, and He said, I will put them in your heart. We're supposed to love them. That's the whole thing. It's a change of heart. If He puts them in your heart,
Yes.
does that mean He abolished them? I mean, come on. We are saved from the penalty of the law. We're not under it because we're not going to be sentenced to death. Thank God there's mercy and grace. But the whole word iniquity or lawlessness or rebellion is when you deliberately, it says to know sin and to know, I'm going to slaughter the verse, but basically it's to know what's right and do wrong is sin.
Yes.
We're all flawed humans that will stumble, but we should not stay down. We should cry out to the Lord and say, I'm sorry, forgive me, receive that forgiveness, get back up, and continue on that straight and narrow, pick up our cross daily. I mean, it's this whole hyper grace stuff that we just say a prayer and we go through life unchanged. That's not what Christianity is about.
I agree. I completely agree, and you helped me come to a lot of the understandings that I have concerning that topic in particular, and I can't thank you enough, brother, because like I said, I said in the last show that I've come to you for counsel because I respect your knowledge about the scriptures, and you've been walking a little closer than I have for longer than I have, so it's refreshing and really enjoyable to know that I have somebody I can come to and ask, hey, what does this mean to you? And will you help explain this to me? And what are your findings? Because then I'm able to look at what everybody else is saying, look at what you're saying, and look at what the scriptures are saying, and then come to my understanding, which, I pray is led by the Holy Spirit. Something I meant to say earlier was that I just recently dug into the understanding of the Hebrew translation of Holy Spirit. And I thought it was interesting that the Hebrew word for Holy Spirit was Ruach HaKodesh, something like that, and that another transliteration of those words are divine inspiration. So the Holy Spirit is a divine inspiration that I, for one, can say I've undeniably felt at least a handful of times, and that is my proof for belief in all of it, in Christ and in salvation. And so I can say with confidence that, no, I'm not saved by works. I'm not saved by following the commandments. I'm not saved by being a do-gooder. I'm not trying to boast and brag about that, right? It's because I know I'm saved by Jesus only and His blood, right? But I am justified by doing works, as was said in James, like you covered earlier, where faith without works is dead. And so they even gave an example of if someone was starving or homeless or cold or in need of help. It's one thing to just wish them well and have a good heart with good intentions, right? We've heard the phrase, the road to hell is paved in good intentions. And I think that always kind of alludes to the other side of it being that if you just had good intentions but you never acted on them, then where were you justified in those intentions? You feel me?
Preach, my brother, yes. Dude, my prayer every day is that God will put people in my path that are true seekers with open minds to listen to all things. You know, that's where I got to where I am today. I wasn't raised believing this stuff, and I always kept my mind open to all ideas, including evolution or witchcraft and all this stuff, because truth will ultimately stand. But if you put up walls and you say, no, I don't want to hear that, even today, I feel like I know there's more to learn, but I feel pretty confident in certain things that I believe, and I'll still listen to somebody else that have a different idea, and then I'll use scripture to prove it wrong or to agree with it. It all has to line up with scripture, every bit of it, and I'll listen to any idea, and that's why my prayer is that all people would do that.
Yeah, for sure. We're products of our environment, but equally likewise, we're gullible, and all too often we're called by ourselves or whatever else is calling us to follow our hearts, as I've covered, and I just find it really interesting what the heart, is talked about, what's talked about the heart concerning the Bible, that, from out of the heart come adulterousness and murders and just things that aren't necessarily leadership material. And so it's obvious that our hearts were not designed to be followed, but they were designed to follow God. And when we do that, and we realize that God is the Word, and the Word was Him, right? That's right. That we just gotta let the Word interpret itself. And it is okay to look and see what other people are saying with their interpretations, but we gotta pray on it, and really compare it to what the Word is actually saying, and be prepared to be wrong sometimes. A lot of people are so bent on their interpretation and what they think it pertains to, and it's specifically that and nothing else to them, whereas I can look and see and try to show them that, the scriptures don't necessarily relate that, and they just get a little bit out of shape, or they just get adamant, and they just want to repeatedly tell you this is what they believe. But at the end of the day, I'm open to evidence, but I got to let those evidence be backed up by the scriptures, like you say. Well, Mikey, I want to roll out the show this evening. Now, we have enough left to talk about for at least 11 teen shows. But this evening, I want to kind of end things off. Now, I asked you earlier what was some of your favorite truther songs. Now, you can't say me, but you said, you had brought up one song, but did you think of any others by chance?
Well, I am a West Blaze fan, but yeah, I like the one by Jonas, One Message. That one kind of, I don't know if many people have heard that one. To be completely honest, I've just kind of been out of the loop with music lately. If you got any cool recommendations, I'd love to hear them.
Definitely. Now, you heard Amber Plaster. She just put out a new music video. Now, Nate Wolf, Pastor Nate, was just telling me about this earlier, and I'm the biggest Amber Plaster fan. Her and her husband, Anthony Stover, the Sebastian Calico that did the song Wake Up with me, I was ecstatic to be able to work with him and know that, they're on my team, I'm on their team with all this. So to see that I've already known they were working on this video, but I had no idea it was going to be this quick, and it was released today. So I checked it out. You checked it out too. What'd you think?
Dude, I love that song. I actually, kind of new to hearing her stuff, but I've heard it on these cool videos. She gets played a lot by other people, which is really cool.
For sure.
And, the video really hit home with me, man. I felt like the lyrics were right out of my own story.
Definitely. So the first song I heard of hers was a cover of Adele. Where it was a Hello, right? And she did a Flat Earth cover. And Nathan Thompson actually helped to kind of write that cover from what I hear. Yeah, and then I hear Star Trails, and she did the Moana cover from the Disney movie, and she starts putting out this great stuff. I remember hearing Geocentric and hearing that was a part of her new album. But so when I had to go and buy the new album, highly recommend it. Then I hear that she's kind of shifting gears. There's one song on that album that kind of pertains to flat Earth and biblical cosmology. The rest of it is there's a lot of scriptural basis behind it and messages for, prophecy in the end times. And that's why I love that album. So Dear Babylon, I think I played it earlier, but it's a new favorite. But so what I'm going to end it off with today is another song from Lifting the Veil, and I hope I don't catch any flack from this, but it's what I believe should be her third single off this album. You got to buy it, but I'm going to play Worlds Apart by Amber Plaster because it is my favorite one off this new album. But definitely check that stuff out. Mikey, you are Truth to the Youth on YouTube. You also do a big part in helping out Little Light Studios on YouTube, and they got a Facebook page as well. Is there any other projects or, anything else you want to give a shout out and plug real quick?
Yeah, actually, with Little Light Studios, they kind of said, hey, you got your wings, so you got to work on a documentary for a DVD project. So I'm actually working on a UFO alien expose, and today me and one of the original OGs from Little Light went downtown and did some man-on-the-street interviews with people to see what they think about, do they believe in aliens, and what are they, what's their message or agenda. And at the very end, I asked, do you think that they could possibly be some kind of deception? So that's the next thing to come out.
I love it so far.
Things like that take some time, but it'll be fun.
Awesome. I love that because, that was what I was going to ask real quick. So I got to know before I let you go then, what who are aliens to you, extraterrestrials, this idea, specifically the idea of like the image of a gray alien, right, with the big head. What or who is that to you specifically?
Well, man, I'll tell you, when I was in this, truth-seeking thing, I went down that ancient alien road, and I was like, the cosmos is so big, why couldn't God have sent aliens to help Moses come out of the wilderness? And, man, so I was totally buying into that. But after much study, after hearing testimonies of people who have come out of abduction experiences through hymnals or prayer, to see that these things seem more supernatural or spiritual than physical, because aliens can walk through walls or make 90-degree turns in a UFO at 1,000 miles an hour. I am much more inclined to think that these are spiritual beings and a demonic deception to bring about a one world order. They're causing chaos. The government, the powers that be, are causing chaos, dividing us on every level right now, so that they can, try to unite us through, like Reagan said, how all our differences would quickly fall away if we were threatened by an alien threat. So I believe that is the major psyop that's coming.
I couldn't say it better myself. And I think that, it's very important. See, something I've tried to stress in several posts that I've made before that I'm going to continue posting about. And I think we just found one of our lead topics for the next, show we do together. But that being said, if you know that the earth is not what they say it is, and the universe is not what they tell us and teach us it is, if you know the earth is flat with an enclosure, a domed ceiling called the firmament, and it was all made by God, and we are the center of creation, right? And this is it. Then you know that what we're told are planets are really nothing more than, well, maybe something more, but just lights in the sky. But they're certainly not a physical terra firma place where other beings are going to be coming from. And so when they're telling us that these beings, or what they're showing us as beings from where they're saying is another place in outer space, we're going to have to know that it's a deception, and that it will most likely entail demonic, evil presences. And then that will lead into a foot in the door for an Antichrist deception, which just will have a whole set of implications that are to be covered on a future session, discerning prophecy. And I look forward to that with you, Mikey. Thank you so much for being on the show with me, brother. I can't thank you enough.
It's been an honor.
Absolutely. I was super excited to get you on here, brother. I'm thankful to be able to have some fellowship with you and some discussion like that, and I really look forward to being able to do it again.
Yes, me too, man. I'm super excited, and thank you for having me on, brother.
Excellent. Yes, sir. I will talk to you very soon. God bless you. Thank you for the prayer. Thank you for being on with me, and I hope you have a great evening, man.
God bless you, man. Thank you, brother. Talk to you later.
Yeah, much love. Catch you soon.
Much love.
Well, I went way longer than I anticipated, so those of you that stuck with us and checked out the entirety of my show, I really appreciate it. Just to say thank you, I'm going to drop a new track, like I said, what I expect to be the third single from Amber Plaster's new album, Lifting the Veil. It's called Worlds Apart. Until next time, thank you all. I appreciate you joining in. This has been Wes Blaze, and keep looking up, because that's where it all is.